that the brothers on the rise now. Woo! Endless celebrations all in my house. Yeah. Levitating now, I'm super duper fly now. Yeah. London boy, but DC where I reside now. Put the time in while you always yelling time out. And for quit it, cause I know I'm coming with it. You were sitting, you were wishing I was handling my business. Yeah. Now I got the ball like Harry Potter playing Quidditch. And my business is humongous, you would think that happens in there. Damn man, I'm all that, yeah, I'm all that. Working for that whip, yeah, that what you call that. I'ma blow up in the summer, have him yelling fall back. And I've always been ahead like an effing ball cap. Man, I came in the game like, whoa. Got a couple chains on me cause I like gold. They told me I'm the best and I told them I know. Cause when I'm in your town, every ticket I sold. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts, bro. Facts, lot of haters. Tell me where they at though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap though. Yeah. Want me on your song, throw a couple stacks, yo. Woo. Everybody wanna do the same thing. Yup. That's why we ain't on the same page. No. Do my own thing and I maintain. Woo. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah, I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yup. I'm going mainstream. Damn. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. So I'm going mainstream.
G'day and welcome back to the Xbox Infinite podcast. After a 2-week hiatus, we are back and we could not have come back on a bigger week. Whoa, what a week. Microsoft kicking ass. Before we get into that though, I'll do some introductions. Welcome to the show, Pong Soul. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming along.
Thank you so much, brother. What a week to get an invite. Thank you. Honored to be here. A pleasure to obviously join this show specifically. So awesome to be here. Glad to be here. We got a lot to discuss, so we can definitely get down to business. Let's go.
Absolutely. General C, welcome to the show for the first time. How you doing, man?
Hello, thanks for having me, mate. It's good to be here. Looking forward to meeting all these fine people that I have quite not had a chance to meet yet. I've played Halo with yourself.
Yeah.
Just excited to talk about all the big news that's happened this week.
Yeah, don't judge me on that. That wasn't my best Wasn't my best
That's
game.
all right. It's all for fun, mate. Gaming's about fun. I don't take it too seriously.
Shits and giggles, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Had to have you
Thank
here,
you
man.
so much for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm here, obviously, to mourn the tragic passing of the PlayStation 5 on this momentous occasion.
And as always, JediKnightPete returning to the panel. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, welcome everyone. Please hit that like and subscribe button. This is going to be our biggest show ever. Glad everyone's back. Shit's returning guests. Great to have Pong and the General C on the show too.
Absolutely. And Umbra, as always, great to have you back. How was your week?
Oh yeah, it's great to be back. Great to be back, and we're here on a momentous occasion. I want to really thank Shiz for coming through again and being an MVP. Pong, my boy Pong Soul is here with us, y'all.
Absolutely, bro.
It's
about
supported
time.
this man on all the thousands of shows that he goes to travel to. And of course, Jen for coming through as well. So I really appreciate you guys for coming through and ready for a good show.
Awesome. I just want to thank the chat for the guys who turned up. Brandino, Brixton, Grey Monad. As always, we're going to get those operators back when we get back on. We lost an operator, unfortunately, in Extraction. Plato, Grum. Who else we got down here? Big Mad Mo. Always see you here, man. Thank you all you guys for supporting us. Before we kick off the show, there's this one thing that I want to play for everyone so that we kick it off on the right note, for sure.
I see it in the community. I listen to the podcasts and all the questions, so I'm going to try to be as clear as I can because that's what I just think it's fair. So obviously, I can't sit here and say every Bethesda game is exclusive because we know that's not true. There's contractual obligations that we're going to see through, as we always do in every one of these instances. We have games that exist on other platforms, and we're going to go support those games on the platforms they're on. There's communities of players. We love those communities, and we'll continue to invest in them. And even in the future, there might be things that have either contractual things or legacy on different platforms that we'll go do. But if we're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. And that's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building and the creative capability we will be able to bring to market for our Xbox customers. It's going to be the best it's ever been for Xbox after we're done here.
Look, and I think that says it all, really, in my opinion. There's been a lot of discourse on Twitter about whether Microsoft will be keeping COD, whether it will be an exclusive, and all the other things. But from my point of view, guys, I'm just going to kick this off straight to the guts and say COD is 110% going to end up exclusive. They will honor their contracts. They always do. But in the end, that game will end up as an Xbox exclusive. And I will add this, and I think I've said this every single show, Wolverine is definitely going day and date now.
Oh, that's bold. Someone woke up and chose violence today.
Oh, man. I've been saying it every show, but it's definitely going to happen. Jedi.
I'm holding you to it.
Jedi, mate, I'm going to go to you. It's been a massive week. I woke up and I think the first 5 things that I said to you guys when we found out what was going on was holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah, look at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time on January 18th. Microsoft dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the gaming industry, which will reverberate for decades to come. The biggest acquisition in gaming ever. Microsoft's biggest acquisition ever. A cool $68.7 billion to acquire the juggernaut, which is Activision, Blizzard, and King. If you didn't believe it before when Satya said it, Microsoft is all in on gaming. The proof is there.
110%.
Hey, Jedi. It almost sounds like we're Dr. Evil when you say that ridiculous amount, doesn't it? $68 billion.
It really does.
An insane amount of money.
It's ridiculous.
That's how ridiculous it is.
Is it more than
Jeez.
Netherlands GDP or something, wasn't it?
Not the Netherlands. The Netherlands is, but it's, you're looking at like maybe the Congo.
It's definitely bigger than some small countries' GDP, definitely, which is just insane to think about.
Pretty sure my bank account's got a bigger GDP than the Congo. Is anyone
Yeah,
here from the Congo? I apologize.
It's probably at least like half of what's in Elon Musk's garage, so it's up there.
Pong Soul, what are your thoughts on this acquisition? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of them, but
Yeah. I mean, where do you begin? It's layer after layer when you look at this, right? So you're talking about a historic move, right? This is a power move, right? This is a straight up look. We got cash, we got a lot of it, and we're serious, and we're gonna let everybody know, for all those that didn't believe us in the first place, that we were telling the truth, and this is gonna be a totally different generation. And I think Jedi said it right. This is going to create ripples and waves for decades to come. And Phil kind of talked about that as well after the press release, that this was a long-term deal. This is not anything short-term. This is looking way ahead into the future. When I found out, I was getting ready for work, and I had been off Twitter because I had to be in the office early in the morning. And all of a sudden, I pulled up Twitter because I was letting the car warm up, and there it was. And I was like, "What? What?" I was like, "No." And I was looking for the check marks to make sure I was looking at real accounts.
Sure, it's not April Fool's Day early.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it all settles in, right? When you hear Activision Blizzard, and of course, there's so many great IP there, but the first thing you think about is Call of Duty. Now, all of a sudden, you're trying to wrap your brain around the fact Xbox, Microsoft now owns one of the biggest franchises in gaming history. They already have one in Halo. Now they got Call of Duty, a yearly release that absolutely, even on its worst years like this year, is still number one on both platforms. It is unbelievable to try to even comprehend that. And I'm still, like, the dust is settling, and I've had plenty of opportunity to talk about it now.
But that is the thing, though, isn't it? That is the thing. But I mean, when you look at the IPs they've got, I've got the list here: Blur, Caesar, Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Crash Bandicoot, PlayStation's mascot, Diablo, DJ Hero, Empire Earth, Gabriel Knight, Geometry Wars, Guitar Hero Gun, Hearthstone, Heroes of Storm, Hexen, Interstate 76, King's Quest from Sierra. My God, we're going back. Laura Bow Mysteries, The Lost Vikings, Overwatch. Oh, Overwatch. One of the biggest multiplayer games there is. That's two of the biggest FPS multiplayer games that they have. Phantasmagoria, Pitfall. I would love to see Pitfall come back. Police Quest, Prototype. Quest for Glory, Singularity, Skylanders, Soldier of Fortune, Space Quest, Spyro the Dragon, StarCraft. Tenchu, they've got the Tenchu Legacy games. They don't have the Tenchu name itself, but they could do a remake, and I'm sure that would be legal. Time Shift, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, man. Oh, wow. How many bongs did you punch playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? Let's be honest. True Crime, World of Warcraft, Zork, man. This is absolutely massive. But as you were saying,
Soldier of Fortune, like Wandering Dutch pointed out. Absolutely.
Exactly. It's just unbelievable. And the funny thing about that list, and this is going to be my general thought, I'll let everybody else get in here. I could talk forever, as you guys probably know. But the point being, the general thought is, when you look through that list, this acquisition took care of all three pillars that Microsoft and Xbox, Phil and his team, have talked about. And that's console, Game Pass, obviously Game Pass, the main vehicle, PC, and mobile. They got all three with one acquisition.
Yeah.
And cloud. Don't forget the cloud.
And the cloud, correct. And I count that as part of the Game Pass and consoles. But it's all in one package. That kind of opportunity does not come along very often, if at all. And everything kind of aligned. That's why nobody saw this coming, right? Number one, because it was such a big risk with everything that's happening over there. But number two, just because nobody thought that the money, right, the value would be there. They would have to overpay for it. But because of everything that happened and that stock dropped,
It was
got
so
themselves-
depressed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say $68.7 billion is a deal, but it's a deal.
It's actually a
when it
great
comes to
deal.
this.
Yep.
Yes.
When you
They
look
paid
at how it would've been
$95 a share,
made,
and it was worth $105 a share a year ago.
Yeah.
So it's a great deal.
Yeah, because that year ago when it was sitting at 105, people don't realize you got to pay a premium, sometimes up to double, right? Especially with an industry as hot as the gaming industry. now.
Exactly.
So let's even say let's say you pay 50% over market, right? You're talking about $150 a share just a year ago, and you got this for $95 a share. In terms of business, that is a steal and a half, and that's special.
Yep.
You know what's so crazy about that though, Pong? Even with that being the case, you're right, it's a premium. But Microsoft still paid over because they paid them what they were worth last year.
Correct. They
That
still got
just
the
goes to
premium.
show you. Exactly. It just goes to show you how Microsoft does business, where they'll say, hey, we're going to stake our claim in here and do something that no other company would even dare do. We're going to give you more than what you're worth.
Correct.
I think
That's why
that sends
they
also
couldn't
a better
turn it down,
message
right?
to other companies. Absolutely. Who's going to turn that
They couldn't
down?
turn it down. Yeah, the investors
They
Exactly.
pretty much got most of it back the day after they made the acquisition. It jumped up from $66 to 86, something like that. So yeah, I mean it pretty much got it back the next day. So
It's almost a 30% rise.
I mean, Pong, you brought up
crazy.
a very poignant point, though, with what was going on over there. No one thought that they would, but that is probably the reason that they bought it. But with what's going on over there, no one thought they would. General C, they've obviously got a lot of work to do there. Do you think it's going to be a short, long road? Do you think Phil's up to the task? The CEO?
It's going to be a long road, but Phil's up to the task. He's rubbing his hands at the opportunities of all these not brand new, but old games that are going to become brand new games again. The thing that excites me the most is it's not the COD, because I've been off of COD for a long time. God, don't even remember the last COD game I played seriously. It's all those potential franchises that were put on ice all them years ago that can now finally be defrosted and used again.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Amen.
And they could make these IPs great again. King's Quest, Pitfall.
Yeah.
They could do something with these things. They're just
crazy,
sitting there gathering dust.
The thought
And not only that,
potentiality of Guitar Hero coming back.
Yeah, they rumored that. And even beyond that, guys, you got to keep in mind too. You have Beanox, you have Toys for Bob, you have Raven Software, who does not get enough love that they deserve because they've been relegated to
the Call of Duty yearly cycle.
Yep. Exactly. Now imagine moving all those teams and letting them be their own thing again. We can get so much out of that. It's actually insane.
There's so many IPs.
And you got to take note of how quick Phil came out and said it right away. How quick he was out there saying, I looked at that IP.
Do any of you...
let's go. I mean, he's
Exactly.
thinking the same thing because he's a gamer. That's the best part.
Absolutely.
And there's so many.
Yeah, I mean, and it allows the people that are working at Activision to actually start being creative again, instead of just being on this yearly cycle of Call of Duty, which would be so absolutely draining, especially if you're in a creative industry like the gaming industry. It will open them up to actually be able
in the community. I listen.
So excited to see where they go and which IPs they choose. It's like you said, Toys for Bob. Ravensoft. I want to see, what Treyarch can do outside of Call of Duty. I want to see what these studios can do if they're not stuck in the yearly cycle of Call of Duty.
They picked up 29 studios, game development studios, that hold the name Activision Blizzard. That's not including Beanox, Raven, all those ones that I've got up on the screen now. It's a ridiculous stable. 10,000.
You know what's even more insane about that? What's even more insane is that you counted as maybe 32 or 34 studios total, right? But it's really much more than that because there are really a lot of other studios under Activision and Blizzard that are not counted. So I don't even know.
Umbrella, you're right.
Yeah, so I don't even know the total number right now, but we can say maybe 32 as it looks like, at least on this graphic here that Clobril made.
Yeah,
I'd like to see High Moon Studios, free of COD, going back to making Transformers games, because Transformers War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron were fucking amazing, and I
I
want to
love those
see.
games.
Well, that's the
I
thing.
want to see like the ending to those two games. It never
There's a
happened
lot of
because they were
potential there.
delegated to COD.
That's the thing. They've got
Yeah,
the
I'm with you on
studios
that,
now.
too.
They've got the studios now to take care of all the IPs that they own. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
there's 17 Activision Blizzard studios. 17 of them. All game development studios. There's a few more support studios that I haven't included in there. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 other studios on top of that. So there's I mean, I don't even call out World of Warcraft. Did I call out World of Warcraft? I mean, that
You did earlier.
I mean, that
You know it's bad when you don't even call out one of the biggest franchises of all time. You know it's bad when we have is crazy when you don't even do that.
I think
150 million people have played World of Warcraft, and yeah, amazing.
Jeez.
what if
Yeah,
that,
and people are forgetting, World of Warcraft is not just a game, but that game in and of itself requires a subscription fee. So,
True.
People pay every month for World of Warcraft now, vis-a-vis what that'll become, with the Game Pass ecosystem and whether it'll be included or not. I don't know, but I really think, I think, Pong was absolutely right earlier with sort of, Activision Blizzard being mired in controversy. And I think that not only was this a steal for Microsoft along the gaming front, I mean, it certainly was, but I think they come in, and I think Phil Spencer in particular, this is a PR win. This sends a message that Microsoft is not afraid to tackle toxicity, and I think it's definitely a PR win for Microsoft. I think Phil Spencer is definitely going to come in on his white horse, and it's been made very clear now that Activision Blizzard will ultimately answer to him as the CEO of like Xbox Game Studios.
Microsoft.
I love that first
Microsoft
comment that he said
Studios.
that they will now answer to him.
Right.
That was
It was a
brilliantly
hammer
said.
Yeah, it was a hammer drop, and I think for as short a sound bit as it was, it sent a huge message, and I think as time goes on, we'll see what that entails.
I mean, this
It is a risk because Activision is embroiled in controversy at the moment, and with the Bethesda deal, Bethesda's got great leadership. So they they can just leave Bethesda alone to do what they did. They just needed an influx in money. Activision actually need a little bit of work internally due to all the controversy that they're embroiled in. I think they need a little bit of management change. They need a new direction, some fresh air. This gives them all that, but it will be interesting to see what actually happens. Yes, Microsoft are all in, but that's give them credit for taking this risk on, but the work is still to be done.
Oh, look, and there is a risk. There is absolutely a risk. There is the settlement was 18 million that they paid out, which is chump change. However, that settlement is being appealed. So, I mean, that's still going through the courts. So that there is a risk that figure could blow out.
There's ongoing litigation in California.
Exactly.
And yeah, it was a risk. I think ultimately, though, I think we look at this, and one of the things I think a lot of people have forgotten about the Bethesda buyout was Microsoft and Phil Spencer in particular said mobile gaming. Right? We all know mobile gaming is nothing but a cash cow. It does not take much to create a mobile game for the most part, and you put it on whether it's the Apple Store, whether it's the Android market, what have you. Those print money. They print money. It's a fantastic, it's very lucrative. But they got in. A lot of people don't know with Bethesda they actually got in with on the mobile market. They got a studio, and correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say it was called like Red Dog, or something to that effect. Alpha Dog, pardon me. I knew it was something along those lines, and that was really their first foray into the mobile market, and we've not seen or heard a lot. But now they get King, and Candy Crush is synonymous with mobile gaming, and it's huge, and everybody's played it because
it is mobile gaming. Candy Crush, just like COD is FPS shooters.
Exactly.
They've got a lot of names.
I haven't played Candy Crush.
And a lot of people don't realize that King is actually bigger than Zynga, which Take-Two just paid $12 billion. Yeah, $12 billion just for that.
And Microsoft
King is a money printing machine to allow the Activision machine to keep working. It just prints money.
It really does.
I want to just say something really quick. Brisk, are you burning a baby inside of a dryer in this video?
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm doing.
That game is hilarious.
This game is amazing. Like seriously, if you there's a free demo, get on and play this game. You will have a laugh. It's online. Look, the idea of the game is
The demo costs $7 to
Wait,
play.
what's the name of the game?
it's called Who's
What's
Your Daddy? The idea of the
I'm
game
not
is
Googling
you play as a baby, right? And you basically got to get up to mischief and try and kill yourself. And
What? That sounds morbid as hell.
in the most creative way possible.
No.
But then there'll be
It's a
someone.
baby suicide simulator.
Yeah, what you're telling everybody to like dabble in and fantasize?
But
It is hilarious.
it's classic. And then there's a daddy, right? So the daddy's going to try and keep you out of mischief. So your job is to get into mischief and kill yourself in a creative way. And then the daddy's job is to stop you from getting into mischief. I honestly had a blast. I only capped a little bit of it because it was pretty funny. But I honestly recommend this game. It is a laugh.
So it's like a suicidal baby's day out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, they just. I assume like he child-proofs everything, and then you've got to like kind of get rat poison into your own bottle or something.
Yeah, well, that's what I've eaten here. You can see me going green. I've eaten some rat poison, and I've just noticed that there's a PowerPoint, and I'm trying to find a fork to stick something in it. And then
Don't have like
Who's your dad? Right? Who's your dad?
oh, there's the fork.
Why is the
It's Who's Your Daddy?
It's called
why is the baby's arm so long? Is he like Mr. Fantastic? You see it?
Yeah, it's like Mr. Fantastic's kid.
Oh man, but sorry everyone. I'm just looking. I'm talking to you guys, and I look over at my computer. I'm like, wait a minute, is that a baby being roasted?
I feel. I mean, I love games where you can simulate like a war crime.
Well, this is the power of Game Pass. I'd never have played this if it didn't mention it as a demo on Game Pass. I was like, oh yeah. All right,
I want to know who proposed that at a development table. Like, I got an idea, guys. I want to know how that game came to be. I would have loved to hear that conversation.
Going
Game Pass banger.
back to this not Bethesda. Going back to this Activision Blizzard deal. I think that Phil and Microsoft are uniquely positioned to solve the issues that they are having at Activision Blizzard. And that is why they bought them, because they've done it once already with Microsoft. There's no secret that Microsoft was having its own issues a while ago. And these culture issues have been solved, mainly by firing Matrix. But so look, Shits, what do you think he's going to go in there and do first up? I'm pretty sure I know what I'd do.
Yeah, so it's interesting because on the one hand, there's a lot of problems, but there's also a lot of potential solutions. And I think it's interesting, principally because on the surface of it, people don't realize how much is there at Activision Blizzard. So I think the first thing he's going to do, and I think we've seen it in press releases, and particularly surrounding because at first, Kodak's, whether Bobby Kotick was going to say, like, the press releases were a little nebulous. It left a lot more, room to wonder. It now appears that pretty concretely, Bobby Kotick's going to leave. Bobby Kotick is sort of that necessary evil, unfortunately, to guide the transition process, right, into like first-party stewardship for Microsoft. So, but after that, it appears that they're really focusing on top-down problems, because Activision Blizzard has fundamentally structural problems, right? Bethesda didn't have structural problems. There is a very strong.
Bethesda was a shake and bake. Good to go. Let's do it.
Exactly. You don't find that at Activision, or you didn't. I think it's great. I think now, and there's been an outpouring on Twitter, and in various other of actual Activision Blizzard employees who are thanking God for the acquisition, and sort of the arrival of what Phil Spencer's and Microsoft's ultimate vision for the company is.
Yeah.
I mean, and from what I've seen, and I think all of us, it's not just about, sort of the toxicity. There are people working at places like Raven, and they're like, we would love a little more autonomy. We would love to get back to making games and doing, as opposed to just being this Call of Duty factory. And
That's exactly what I was saying. Yep.
And I agree with you. And Call of Duty is very lucrative. It makes a lot of money. There's obviously a big incentive in turning it out. But I really think the idea that, you know, they're gonna let some of these IPs loose, like they got Sierra. Who doesn't want to play Fear? You know, who doesn't want a new Fear game? StarCraft, we could see maybe StarCraft Ghosts, you know, come to fruition.
Totally forgot their own Fear.
Yeah. True Crime is basically Grand Theft Auto, you know. It was so.
Yep.
There's a lot of potential there. I think Phil Spencer, the first thing he's going to want to do is a little top-down cleaning, and I think he sent that message. Although that's, you know, time, that's kind of time restrictive. And then I think he's kind of been a little clear about how he would like to maybe unleash some of these IPs, you know, the creative talent behind places like Raven, you know, and High Moon and all that. And I think that would be great. I think we're talking a greater diversity of games. And then, you know, Call of Duty, I think if you turn it out every year and a half, maybe even every 2 years with continued support, you get a higher quality of the flagship. So I think ultimately that's what he would like
Absolutely.
to do.
Then you're giving yourself
Every 2 years with Warzone in between. With a drop
Right.
for Warzone in between is more than enough. But I actually wanted to ask Umbra, how long do you think all this is going to take, Umbra? I mean, obviously we do know that the deal's going to take about a year to 18 months to go through. So how long do you think it's actually going to take for them to fix the company, to start actually pushing some new IPs? What do you think about that?
I'm thinking it'll be a minute because they have so much other like overhead to take care of before that.
Yeah.
I think it'll be in talks and incubation, right? The incubation period for it, but I don't know how soon it'll be before we start hearing any announcements. I would say give it a year or two.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, look,
because they have so much more to take care of, and I think unfortunately the games will have to come secondary to it because, like you said, or like Shiz was just pointing out, the situation with all of the nastiness going on behind the scenes, that has to be sorted out really, really fast first, and then they can get back to the creative side.
That's
You
how
can't
that's
build
how
on a
that's how
crappy
Phil
structure.
works. Phil works on culture. That's what he said in that Xbox 20 the documentary that he started with culture, and I'm pretty sure that's how he's going to work this time and go top down. Bobby Kotick's obviously going to go, but with these IPs, General, what do you want to see come out of this? What would you like to see Activision do? I mean, we'd all like to see Activision cut back Call of Duty, give it more development time, and come out with a quality product instead of spewing out just the same old COD every single year. I mean, I was pretty happy when they put out Modern Warfare. They put some time into that game, and it was a massive improvement, and they stepped straight back into their old formula, and it was a bit disappointing. But aside from that, what would you want to see from these IPs? What do you want to see from a Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard?
I'd be excited to see a Halo spin-off by Infinity Ward.
Oh.
Maybe an ODST too.
Oh.
I
No,
like that.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe
Give
even
it
get...
to Id. Give it to Id.
Everyone keeps banging on about Halo Infinite needing a battle royale. Give it to a COD team. Let them make a separate Halo battle royale.
With that Warzone.
I like that. I like that idea. Yep.
That is, that did
Why
not.
not?
And that's pretty.
I'd like to see Call of Duty take a big long hiatus of 5 years after all these PlayStation deals end, which I think is in 2024.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to
Look,
see
we're
with
gonna
COD.
get-
It needs a big long break. They need to come to the
They can
table
definitely work with it.
and start thinking about some fresh ideas for COD because a lot of people are getting tired of it. You've seen COD's taken a huge dip this year, although yes, it's still doing very well, but the signs are there that people are getting tired of COD.
yeah.
And they're going to
Yeah.
get increasingly more like that as it goes on.
I really want to see how big Modern Warfare is when it comes out later this year. Will it hit as big as the first
Right.
remake did?
I think it'll
Or
rebound
does it
really
tell you the
heavy.
future?
I think it'll rebound really heavy just because of what went down now. I think
Agreed. There's a lot of publicity around it that generates interest. Interest generates Luca buying it. I agree with you.
that's right.
So if we do
Also,
see,
I want to point out too before you move on, Rich. I want to say too.
yeah.
Jazz pointed out. He said, "What about having Infinity Ward or someone of the Call of Duty teams work on an ODST sequel?
Yes.
I can see them doing that as well."
Yes. Even though I hated
anyone-
ODST. I hated
Has
ODST.
anyone read
Terrible.
the Gears
I
of War
thought
book,
ODST
Astro
was
Fields?
one of the best.
What was that, General C? Asteroid Field?
Has anyone read the Gears of War book, Asphalt Fields?
No.
Yes, I have during the Pendulum Wars. I've read it. Yes.
Did you?
It would be
you read the
perfect.
Pendulum Wars.
It would be
prequel.
perfect to have a Gears of War first-person shooter where it's humans versus humans. It would make the perfect Call of Duty crossover. Gears of Duty. There you go. Bingo, bango.
Gears of Duty.
Money in the bank, mate.
Gears of Duty. We need it. I
All
would
Gears.
love a first-person Gears of War shooter.
I want it.
Maybe throw in that Rainbow Six Vegas type cover system where you can go up to a wall and take cover and then shoot
In
from the
first
wall.
person,
Gears of
you
Duty
just
Rainbow.
I
wanna-
love Rainbow Six Vegas. I
Rainbow
I
Six
used to
Vegas
yell
had an
into my
amazing
mic.
cover system
Go, go, go.
where like you'd
Go,
be in
go,
first
go.
person, but then you go up to cover and then you
be
go
in
into
third.
third person.
I
Do that
I
with a
think
Gears of War game, and it would be perfect because it would
There
be
you go.
humans on
I like
humans. It would be more COD style, and it would bring the COD fan base possibly into Gears of War, and they'll go, "Oh, what's this game?"
I think there's a
I
lot
like
of potential for narrative, at least with the Gears universe, because it's sort of analogous to the Cold War, the UIR,
Yeah.
and the COD and all that. So I think I agree with you on that because there's a whole Gears of War universe that's sort of
Yeah,
gets
untapped.
lost behind just killing
The-
subterranean mutants.
The Gears of War lore is absolutely amazing. The
I
Pendulum
agree.
Wars in the Gears of War lore lasted like 79 years or something in
and it
lore.
swung back and forth. Yeah.
Why
there's a
can't
lot
we
of-
have like
And I
first-
like that idea because it frees up the coalition as well,
Yeah.
and that's what I've wanted to see for a while.
Pete actually admitted to me a couple of days ago that he's never played a Gears game. Anyway, moving
Oh
on.
my god!
Yeah.
Get off this point. I'll tell you.
No, that's not true. I just made that
No,
up.
you're so full of shit. You're so full of
Oh.
shit, mate.
I was embarrassed for you. I think though, in terms of if I could just say, I think in terms of games, there's one franchise I think a lot of people aren't looking at, and I think could really represent. So we're looking at you remember how like Silent Hill was always kind of a PlayStation thing. It was always, but it was such a great survival horror, psychological horror experience. I look at what they've acquired. Now you look at things. You look at Halo. You look at Gears of War. You look at Overwatch, Call of Duty, Doom, Wolfenstein. If you have Xbox, you are playing the best shooters. You have FPS, you have third-person shooters. You're gonna be able to kill shit whenever you want. Like every 2-3 months, you're gonna, you'll find something where you can go kill some shit some way. And I think that's great. I think though, picking up Sierra, I think was I would love to see
Massive.
Xbox sort of acquire its own tentpole survival horror and bring Fear back into the mainstream. I think Fear represents an amazing level of potential to do that because they have the RPGs, they have the FPSs, they've locked down strategy games, Age of Empires, Total War's coming fairly shortly in about a month. I think survival horror would be a great place to plant their flag and establish themselves with a certain.
There's so many places that they can now go with IPs, but there's not just places that they can go with IPs. There's so many places that they can go with tech now.
Correct.
They've got the IP engine from Modern Warfare. There was a new engine in development for Overwatch from memory, and talking about tech, they've got BattleNet. They closed this deal.
Do. A lot of people
They
forget
closed
about
this deal.
Blizzard
They got BattleNet. And Game
Yeah.
Pass is notoriously a poor launcher for the PC. So if they get BattleNet, would they then scrap the Game Pass launcher and somehow assimilate that into BattleNet? That thing is infinitely better than Game Pass. So I've been told. I won't play PC because I'm not. I don't have a
That'll
superiority
probably
complex.
That'll probably happen, and BattleNet will get a rebranding.
Yeah. So General C, you're a PC player, but Pong, are you a PC man?
No, console only for me.
Console only for you. So General C,
Yeah,
you know a fair bit. Shits, you guys know a fair bit about the PC. I've heard the launcher is terrible for Game Pass, and that BattleNet has got it dialed in. So
I have so
I
many
don't
problems
think
with the
it's
launcher
terrible.
for Game Pass.
yeah.
It's not terrible. It's a little overwhelming, when you first, because you have to, when you pull it up on PC, if you have Ultimate, at least in my experience when I use it, the way I have it set up, you can switch between console and PC because I play on both. Although I'm kind of a console supremacist personally.
It's not terrible, but that's when it works. It's not terrible.
It just hits you.
A lot of
with
the
so
times I have problems just downloading the game on it. it gives me some errors a lot of the times. I don't know if that's my
So
aging
I'm not a
PC being an annoying little piece of shit. But I get a lot of Game Pass problems, and I have no other issues with any other launcher apart
Now,
from
is it
Game Pass.
connection problems, or what's the nature of the problem? Just connecting, or not being able to?
Just installing games more than anything, and trying to load them. I had problems with Fallout 76 when I tried to play that through Game Pass.
Wait, people still play Fallout 76?
That was like back
Fallout's
when
a great game.
Fallout 76
was-
first came to the Game
Well,
Pass
I
on
feel like
PC.
Game Pass did you a favor and kept you off that creative aggression. So you should thank it. Yeah,
But
if
I've had a lot of problems just loading and installing games on the Game Pass launcher, and I don't get that with Steam. I don't get that with Epic Games launcher, and I've never had that with Battle.net. I don't use Origin's launcher very much because I don't really play that many EA games. But I don't have any issues with those launchers. It's just the Game Pass has got some technical reason why it hates my PC.
So it'll be a smart move for them to assimilate Battle.net into Game Pass into Battle.net. You would think.
I mean, maybe your
I'll
PC
rebrand
just
Battle.net into Game Pass and then get rid of the Game Pass app that they do have.
Yeah.
That will take a while, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, there's so much that they can. What will they and when will they do? Speaking of when will we see these games in Game Pass? The deal's supposed to close in fiscal year 2023. Pong, when do you think we start seeing some of these Activision games in Game Pass early, or like Bethesda when the deal closes?
The majority when the deal closes. They're gonna be very careful. Again, this is going to be the most scrutinized deal in gaming history. So they're going to be very careful with what they do, but it is business as usual. And obviously there can be some favorable deals made basically between you and your future self, right? So I definitely think we could see some titles kind of drip into Game Pass. Call of Duty, no, obviously not. I don't think they're going to even go there. But I think we could see some. I just think the majority we will see when the deal closes. And like you said, that could be any time fiscal year of 2023. All things go smoothly. If they, get through this process, relatively clean, we could see this deal close by the end of the year. That wouldn't be unheard of, even this one this big. If they answer all the questions, if they give concessions if necessary, if they do everything kind of by the book and they've got everything kind of cleaned up, and Activision themselves continue to clean house this entire time, and show that they're on a path, I definitely think we could see it by the end of the year. It could be a nice big announcement for the end of the year.
Yeah,
or very early next year could happen.
Yeah, or very early, right? Yeah, worst case. I mean, again, they say fiscal year 2023 because it is a gigantic deal, and there's a million different things that could happen during this process that could trip it up and delay it, right? So that they're giving themselves a wide berth there. They want to set expectations, but I think all things.
You don't think it's gonna pull a delay from the litigators? I don't know what you call them, the guys who chase after these deals and make sure everything's on the up and up. You don't think that they're going to step in and cause issues?
No, not at all.
No, because it's business as usual. Everybody has to go on. Like, Activision can cut deals. So, like, if Sony came to them right now and said, "Hey, we want to extend our marketing rights for Call of Duty," technically speaking, Activision could do that because they're supposed to run it and they're supposed to still, they have to be mindful of their investors, right? So they still have to carry on. So no, that kind of activity, again, if you're going to make a deal, and it's not like some, hey, drop Call of Duty into Game Pass, we'll give you $1, right? That, as long as the deal isn't like that. I mean, obviously anything that is done during this time frame is going to be reviewed, but as long as it's on the up and up, they're just carrying on as business as usual. If the deal falls through, it's still a Game Pass deal for, Xbox at the end of the day. So again, they have to kind of do this stuff. Again, they're going to be careful. They're not going to push it. That's why I say Call of Duty ain't dropping into Game Pass, right? Anytime soon. They're going to wait until it's closed for something like that. But the smaller titles, I definitely could see a couple here and there.
Yeah. Umbra, what do you reckon? You think we'll see some titles coming in early?
It seems to be like, if we look at what happened with Bethesda, you can kind of see the same pattern. I think we'll have much of the same. They'll kind of wait till a lot of that is done, then they'll drop something. But I don't see why they couldn't do anything now. Yeah, let's call it a good faith drop. They'll probably drop something within the next month. I'm going to guess February will be pretty nice for Game Pass, in my opinion.
What would
I'm
you want
thinking
to
they'll
see?
drop a few more.
What do you want to see in there?
They can throw off the legacy titles of Call of Duty franchise.
A lot of back compat
What-
stuff.
Absolutely. Why not also throw in the remake for Modern Warfare? I never bought it, so that would be a perfect time for me to actually play through it, because I was not paying the ridiculous price they were charging for a remake. So I was like, nope. So that being into Game Pass would be a nice addition. So I say the legacy titles of Call of Duty, and maybe they'll throw in a Crash Bandicoot game. Who knows, right? They could throw in a few things like that.
Just to rub that salt in, yeah?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to see what happens on Twitter.
Just to rub that salt in.
Hey, I just wanted to go back to when we were talking about the IP and what they do with it and kind of the future, looking down the road. First of all, not to squash your dreams, shits and giggles, but Fear is not owned by Sierra anymore.
It's not. Oh my God!
Monolith Productions own the IP, so Warner Brothers actually.
Oh, we got to
Fear.
get Warner Brothers then. What the? Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been on that train for a long time.
This is next. This next.
Oh, you just put my balls in a vice.
I know.
Excited. Now I
Just
look
right.
stupid in front of
Warner
everyone.
Brother games is on the menu, boys. Let's get them next.
All of Warner Brothers IP.
Don't Xbox
Anyway.
have a lot of spending money left over for this physical
They
year?
sure do.
Fiscal year?
They sure
Yeah.
do.
Half their
Yeah,
It's like
Yeah.
60 billion or something.
The last
Yeah,
time I talked, the
gonna
last
be
time
really
Doc
quiet.
and Adela talked about it, it was either another studio acquisition or Iceland. So I don't know what they're buying. I mean, they could do a couple of things, I guess. But I mean, they might get a deal on Denmark.
But hold up. Pong, you
60 billion still being on the table. It's very likely they'll grab another publisher, maybe an Asian one. And I would think you still have a Sobo. You still have, in my opinion, Annapurna,
Crystal
who has,
Dynamics.
if you haven't paid attention, they place a lot of their games on Xbox inside of Game Pass. Annapurna is on my list, I think. You have IOI, and you have Avalanche. I think all are going to be acquired.
Crystal
Crystal
Dynamics.
Dynamics.
Crystal Dynamics.
would make them.
I'm-
Crystal Dynamics would make the most sense.
I'm telling
I
you
think.
right now, Crystal Dynamics is getting acquired. That's 110.
I think so.
You heard it here first.
Yep.
They better do it quick before Sony decides to
Buy up
finally put
Square
a ring on
Enix.
Square Enix's finger.
Yeah.
And that's
Exactly.
That ain't gonna happen
That's right.
Exactly. That would be the smart thing for Sony to do right now. Not for the games, because they've already got the games. That's not an issue. They're already
Just to
paying for the
shaft,
game. But just to take Crystal
shaft
Dynamics
other
away from Microsoft, it would be a smart move for Sony to walk out and take Square Enix now. And that is the only play that they have. That's the only
Yeah,
play
I-
that they
But
have.
can they do it? Can
How
they
much
do it?
is,
That's the problem.
how much is
They can
Square
do it
Enix
easy.
worth, though? How much are they
Square
worth?
Enix is worth a bit over $6 billion, so they absolutely can get them.
They
Yes,
can
Square
get it.
Enix is worth a bit over $6 billion. So they can
Yeah,
get them, and maybe say if they were smart and try to go for them or Capcom. I would actually say just go for Capcom if I was Sony, because Square Enix is almost de facto first party for them. But
Well,
see,
you
if-
do
what
take the
do
Tomb
they
Raider IP
gain?
too and lock it down. So
Well, what do they gain?
just because
on
Square
the
doesn't
Japanese
appreciate
studio?
Tomb Raider doesn't mean Sony doesn't appreciate Tomb Raider.
true.
I don't think
Exactly.
they gain anything from that, though. I think I'm really would risk it on that one. They don't really gain much in terms of their portfolio from acquiring another Japanese studio. I think the problem for them is whether people like to admit it or not, and it's not universal. Western content sells better. So everyone's more excited
Don't
about it.
forget, Sony are moving out of the Japanese market. They've proven it. They moved over their whole branch to the USA. They now operate out of the United States. They don't
They do.
operate out of Japan anymore. And Nintendo have basically sewed up that Japanese market. The PS5 is selling nowhere
Exactly.
near as good as the PS4 did in Japan. They really have started focusing on the Western market.
But
But
where
here's
do
what
they
I'll say about this though is because Sony has to, you got to take a bigger view and you got to look down the road. And if Sony believes that Microsoft and Xbox are positioning themselves and that Game Pass is going to become the de facto video game subscription service, these favorable deals that they're getting right now with Square Enix could go away very easily. Because if Game Pass becomes too big, so big, I should say, at some point Square is going to see the money. Okay. And that money is going to be something that they can no longer ignore.
Yep.
And they start putting Final Fantasy games on Xbox and they don't take the exclusivity deals anymore from Sony, Sony's got to be aware of that. Also, Sony's trying to launch their own service. They're going to have to start having content for that service. Their first party is nowhere near what Xbox's is. So it's going to take more. They're going to have to be able to say, hey, we've got exclusive content over here, not just our games that come out 3, 4, 5 years, but we've got all this other stuff as well. And so that's where you got to start thinking why this deal still makes sense. I understand right now as it stands, it really doesn't. You're getting the milk for free right now. I get it. I get that concept. But the point being is down the road, 5 years from now, what's it going to look like? What's the landscape going to be? And Sony needs more studios. They need more content and need exclusive content to be able to compete with what Xbox is going to be putting out. Again, it's never going to be one for one. Xbox is going to overwhelm in content, but big franchise is like saying Final Fantasy is 100% exclusive to us. That's a big deal no matter what at the end of the day. It may not be as big as a Call of Duty or something like that, but it is a gigantic position to have.
Agreed 100%.
I agree. Yeah, well said, mate. I do agree with that.
Yeah,
I think we all agree with that.
That's why
It just depends on whether. Sorry, I'm reading.
Oh, sorry, Risk. I was just saying I agree with Pong on that. That's why I would say going for Square or going for Capcom would be major, even though, yeah, they are more tuned to the Western side now, Sony. They would be foolish to ignore Capcom or Square Enix as far as acquisition goes.
Yeah, but they don't. So what about things like, so I'm looking at it right now. I mean, I'm not looking at it per se, but look at something like Sega, right? Sega's just under 5 billion. So I think it's like 4.9. You're looking at a little over 6 for Square Enix.
Yeah.
You're looking at something like Konami. I could see making sense, but I feel like, and I have to agree. I've got to agree with Jedi. They need to move westward. I think everybody likes Metal Gear Solid and things like that, but the problems. I think Sony's only real answer isn't even an acquisition. I think they need to challenge. They need to open up, but they can't buy a studio, but they need Western content. Where they're very weak, they have IPs that are still dormant. They don't have a real shooter, but what they do have sitting on ice is something like Resistance or Killzone, or even better, they still have SOCOM. I think the best they can really do is sort of use what they have to counter. I don't think they're in a position ready to go out.
The best thing that they can do right now is put Game Pass on their system. That is the best thing they can do right now.
Right.
Although PlayStation is doing really, really well, Sony as a company is technically losing money. So it would be a massive, massive risk for them. So look, PlayStation's doing really, really well, but Sony as a company is actually losing money. So what will their investors think about that?
Well, they're being confronted in a traditional market sector where they've traditionally held dominance, and that's evaporating, I think, a lot quicker than anybody thought. I mean, we're looking at most gamers. I mean, I have a PlayStation 5 and I have an Xbox Series X. You know, I know Risket's in the same boat, but a lot of people don't even...
Whoa, I do not own a PlayStation. No, I don't yet. I keep going.
Yeah, I was going to say. Right, I know. Don't think you're going to disclaim it.
It gathers dust. It gathers dust.
Yeah, that's what... Yeah, you do the monthly power check, you know, like... or Jim Ryan and someone to preach you. But I think it's interesting because people don't even have these consoles for the most part. Obviously, you know, we're all real gamers here, so we do. But, you know, it just feels like when people don't... The market doesn't even have access to the product, and one side has come out and brutally curb stomped the other one into oblivion. You know, it's just...
That's the perfect metaphor for what happened on the 18th.
Yeah.
Was a massive curb stomp.
Yeah, I mean, Sony dropped the soap. Like, there's no way to really get around that.
It was,
you know,
I know then drop the soap for me, huh?
Well, yeah, I'm not. How many times do I get to interact with Australians? I got to use all my best prison metaphors.
I'm coming to you live from a UK prison. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, they'll deport you soon enough.
The government is chasing me though, because I had COVID, so they're looking for me. They're looking for me hard. But what move has PlayStation got that doesn't look weak right now? They don't have
Nothing.
a move.
They
They
have to
can't
grab. We kind of spoke on it already. I don't think the Western way is really the way for Sony to go. I'm going to disagree with that, simply because Sony has their own lane when it comes to things like that. Their first party is unprecedented. We have to give them credit there, right? So
Yeah,
they kind of have a
absolutely.
weapon in the pocket when it comes to that. Yeah. So their strongest suit is to use their Japanese connections. If they get Square Enix, if they get Capcom, let's say they get Square and they get Konami, that's major.
So the thing
You
is,
know,
at the
why
same
do we
time,
want
Yeah,
to
but
Yeah.
Umbra, do you think that Square and Konami will want to do that just because they sell a lot on Nintendo
Right.
platform as well? So is it a good business decision for Square and Konami to do that, to go all in on Sony, especially when Microsoft seems to be dropping the hammer down? And, you know, Nintendo's always there in the background making a lot of money for these companies, always selling well. Games always sell well on the Nintendo platform.
That's true, but then it all depends, right? Money talks. So if Sony decides to double off what they're going to give them and then still keep those games, they can do like a merger. They don't even have to outright acquire them. They can merger with them and have them still make their money on that side of Nintendo if they wanted to. There's a lot of
But
ways
does-
they can play it.
Does money talk?
Yeah.
At least if you're Square Enix, your Capcom, your Konami, Bandai Namco, Sega, you know, sort of these Japanese publishers, right? Does money talk if you look? Money doesn't talk if you're looking at what appears to be a losing horse. And I agree with I agree with Umbra on that one. I think if I'm a major publisher and the opposition is just so enormous and you know, you're starting to see now that these are two entirely separate beasts. This is a David and Goliath situation, you know, and a slingshot's not going to cut it this time around, because you dropped $70 billion, and $70 billion. I mean, we're talking, that's what, like, that's like a third, that's like 30% of Sony Interactive. So I don't think you're going to merge. I don't think you're going to willingly go to your, because if they're publishers and they're publicly traded, you can't go to your share. It's very difficult to go to your shareholders, right? And convince them that you want to bet on what is essentially at the moment what appears to be a losing proposition.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, look at what Boba Fett Gaming said. It's hard to counterpunch when you're pinned in the corner, getting bodied in round 2. But the only way to win the fight, only way to win that fight is to counterpunch. So, what is Sony's move, General C? What do you see Sony doing? Fight their way out of the corner.
I think
Body
over the
in
next
round
few
one.
weeks, they're going to be evaluating probably which companies they could buy that they do have good relationships with. But at the same time, those companies are probably going to be looking at the landscape and going, Xbox is becoming more increasingly popular. Do we really want Sony to buy us when we can, you know, make more money in the long term?
Exactly. And should we just hire Don Matrick to look after?
I don't know, because I'll be honest, they might. I bet you Jim Ryan's out there right now updating his fucking resume. Like,
Pong, what do you think?
Activision for you.
What do you think, Pong? What's the move? What's the counterpunch? The one that's the
Well, the counterpunch is it's going to be multi-headed, right? That's obvious, because again, they can't go.
Can't compete on the
one.
money side, so yeah.
They can't go one for one. They know this. They're smart. They're not dumb over there. Okay, they're still the market leaders. Okay, whether we want to sit and try to say that they're in one of the worst positions they've been in a long time, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're still market leaders worldwide. Okay, they still
deserve it.
Yeah, they're number 2 in revenue. Again, even with this deal, Xbox would still be number 3. Okay, so it's not going to affect them from that standpoint. But what it will do is it will accelerate whatever plans they had in place, right? That's why we heard there has been, we've heard now, Grubb was talking about it, that there has been panic meetings, right? Because they need to figure out what they're going to do. So it is going to accelerate their plans, but it's going to be, you know, it's not just one answer. They're going to do Spartacus. They're going to have to make Spartacus a lot better value than they may have wanted to out the gates. That means that they might have to match the price that Xbox Ultimate Game Pass is at right now. They may have to. I think I think that certain games will come day and date, and the other ones will be a shorter time period than they originally wanted. I think a game like Gran Turismo 7 could be the first one.
Do you see day and date on PC? I see day and date on PC.
Yes,
pretty quickly.
Yes, I see. It's going to be, like I said, everything that they had planned, and I thought that eventually, once they got to a certain subscription number, that they would start doing some day and date. I think they accelerate all that both on PC and their subscription service. So I think they do that. And again, we can't forget that they also have movies. They also have music. They can offer content within Spartacus that Xbox currently does not have. Okay,
right?
So they
and
can
cross entertainment.
Right, they can add value to that service and say, hey, look, we've got a lot over here for X amount of dollars per month. Let's say it's $15. Let's say they match Game Pass Ultimate. It's $15 a month, but yeah, we're not going to have the day and date per se every single title. We're not going to have as much game content, but we can offer you movies. You get our music. You get all this kind of stuff. They've got the whole basic. Yeah, they got. I was just going to say they've got the entire anime sector basically wrapped up at this point. So they can do that kind of stuff. They can create that.
And you can see that they are actually going that direction with the Last of Us movie and the Uncharted movie, and there's a Twisted Metal TV show coming up. So they're definitely going for that multi-tiered approach. And I think that works really, really well for Sony because they're actually in that market, and they have been for quite some time, so they understand that market quite well. And I think merging them together makes a lot of sense for them.
Do you think they'll change their slogan from "for the players" to "for the watchers"? Just based on their game content and look, seriously, it is an extremely smart approach to go ahead and offer content that Microsoft just doesn't have, because Sony is not going to have the content to be able to fight back in this generation. It's turned around so quick. It's so quickly, like from 2013 to now. Like that's a very short amount of time for us to turn around and be sitting here.
One major Western developer to go after is Ubisoft. Ubisoft is surprisingly cheap, like relatively speaking.
And it does satisfy the Western need.
Yeah.
Microsoft don't want to sell. They have been very, very loud about the fact that they just don't want to sell.
And they've got their own subscription service now as well.
Right. Do you guys see them throwing a Hail Mary pass? Well, for the Australians.
I think they've already tried.
Do they throw a Hail Mary on VR? Do they, because they're doing some interesting things?
What do you mean? Are you saying, do they add Pornhub to VR?
Well, I don't think I'm not speaking from experience or nothing, but you don't really need I don't imagine you need a subscription service for that. But what I would, I wouldn't know.
Well, they could buy Pornhub. It'd be cheap, man. They could bundle that into their content.
I don't know. Game Pass.
PlayStation for the masturbators.
Yeah, right. PlayStation.
PlayStation.
Look, there was an article, I got to say, we had it on the show a few shows back. I think it was by what is it? Push Square?
New York Post.
Yeah, it was. PlayStation players are the biggest. Was the title of the article was PlayStation players are the biggest wankers in gaming, and it's actually it's true. Pornhub was accessed more than any other website on the PlayStation 4, so that's out of control. Just a little bit of.
I'm not even. I just want to know the categories. I want to know what porn they were. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but I gotta see the category.
Probably Aloy, something to do with Aloy.
Yeah, right. It's all just like 5'2" redheads. I could see that. I think VR is interesting. I think that they certainly have a lot of. Especially they just announced Call of the Mountain and things like that. I think there's a lot of potential for VR. My worry is that VR has sort of been touted for about 30 years now. And it's not quite the market it is.
No, but listen, all these steps that Microsoft and PlayStation are taking, and if you listen to the CNN, I don't know what you guys call it, it's an American thing, CNBC and whatever the hell it was. They had
CNBC,
they had Bobby Kotick and they had Phil Spencer on, and a lot of that talk was about the metaverse and making their way towards the metaverse, which is basically Ready Player One type stuff. They're not talking VR; they're talking about living or having just digital content everywhere you go. be able to access that content. That's not just built on VR, but the VR is a part of that. And so it's not that far-fetched. What you're saying is that if PlayStation does double down on the VR, that could help get them there in the long run.
I just, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to thank Pyro Mod in the chat. He did say that Kratos Squats is probably the top search of all PlayStation porn viewers. So, Pyro, that is perfect. I think you're really onto something. We got to get to the comments section. I think that's where they'll really reveal themselves. Good call.
Oh my god. All right, we got to get off the VR porn. We got to get off the VR porn. But speaking of Kratos, we'll come back to Activision. But speaking of Kratos, God of War launched on PC and had 60,000 concurrent players in day one. That's another reason why I could see Sony looking at the numbers that they do. I don't know how many they sold. Pong, do you know how many they sold for the God of War on PC?
Oh, offhand, I don't know that number.
I don't think the number's out yet, but it's going to be huge.
It'll be massive.
It's going to be huge.
And I can see him going day and date. I can see them going day and date. Wolverine will be day and date on the PC, guaranteed.
No, that's bold.
It could be a game a little bit earlier than that. God of War.
Yeah, I think
maybe.
they like double dipping at the moment, but I think it'll go a long way in help bringing back that good consumer sentiment that I think Sony's lost this generation, and Microsoft has earned through Game Pass and what they're doing. And Sony's saying we believe in generations. Sony's saying that double dipping, the increase in price to $70, that goodwill is definitely headed towards the Microsoft side, and definitely something Sony has lost since Jim Ryan's taken over. And yeah, that would be a very smart play by them. I think they need that consumer sentiment back.
Absolutely, and it's going to go a long way to like you said, pushing them forward. At the moment, they're on the back foot. They're going to come out swinging with something, and they're going to come out. I think they came out with a Horizon Zero Dawn video the day of the announcement. That's not going to do it.
It did.
They've got aces. They've got aces up their sleeve.
I would love to see.
They're going to have a great year this year, Sony. They've got God of War, they've got Horizon, they've got Gran Turismo. These are great games, not to mention the smaller games like Forspoken, Sifu. I mean, they have an absolutely stacked year, and Microsoft just dropping a bombshell before one of their biggest games of Horizon coming out just shows that Microsoft's not playing this generation. And yes, in the Washington Post article, he did say that they trust Sony and they like they like doing business with them, but yeah, I mean, Microsoft aren't playing. Yes, they might not really view Sony as their competition, and I think this acquisition was more to stop the big companies like Facebook and Google and Tencent from entering into this space. I think in that Washington Post article, Phil talks about how these people are just getting into this space now, and it's not actually a good thing for gaming. And I think a lot of people are seeing that as Microsoft's been in this space now for 20 years, they do have a proven track record. Although all of it not good, it is better that that Activision was picked up by Microsoft rather than Tencent, rather than Facebook, rather than Google. That will be just there to actually make money. There won't be any creative, endeavors. It'll basically be just there to make money. So I'm actually really, really happy that if Activision, was to be bought, it was bought by Microsoft. I think it's a good thing for the industry.
Yeah, and it's going to come way worse.
Yeah,
with them if they'd split all their assets up and sold them off individually, because a lot of people would probably have lost their jobs. So
exactly,
it's a real good thing that Microsoft came in and secured the company, as well as securing the jobs for those people in that company.
There's 10,000 employees working for Activision. That is a massive wealth of
insane number of people.
Right, that's a lot of
really
that needs to be put on tables. I agree.
Yes. Yep.
Could have been real bad if they'd sold them all separately, and a lot of those people lost their jobs.
Pong, so you were
right.
about to spit the aces up the sleeve. What do you think they got up their sleeve?
Well, I think if they're going to do the state of play that we're hearing about in February, if that comes to fruition, then you're looking at they're going to go back to that famous E3 where they sold hope, right? And they're going to come out. Now, plenty of people have said behind the scenes that Sony, for about the past 2 years, were cutting deals left and right. They were spending a lot of money that we're not even aware of yet. And I think a lot of the stuff that's been rumored, whether it's a Metal Gear Solid remake, whether it's the Siphon Filter, Silent Hill, some of those second and third party deals that we've heard about for some shooters, like maybe SOCOM coming back. Resistance has been being promoted heavily on Twitter recently, which is a strong indicator. They're going to bring those out during that state of play, I believe, because that's again, it's never going to be one for one. You can't counter a acquisition of this size, okay, of something like this magnitude. But what you can do is you can signal to your fan base, we're not rolling over here. We're not going to abdicate the throne and kneel down to Xbox just because, oh my God, they have so much more money than we do right now and they're spending it and they're in this fully. They're not going to do that. So they're going to signal to their fan base, hey, you got a lot to look forward to when it comes to Sony, not just the stuff you know about, but here's some more stuff that we've been doing in the behind the scenes. And again, they have an opportunity with Spartacus to get a gigantic base of subscribers out the gates, because there are Sony fans that will jump on board just because it's Sony. And a large percentage of people, if they show the value and if they sell that hope, will jump into that subscription service. And don't forget, there's a patent done in December by Mark Cerny that has something to do with backwards compatibility. If they have figured that out and they can offer their back library as well, which so many people, dismissed when Microsoft talked about it and said it was no big deal. But Sony, again, is not dumb. They know that Microsoft is making a ton of money off of backwards compatibility and a ton of goodwill as well. If they figured that out and can offer that as part of the service as well, they're going to be able to catch up to Game Pass subscriber numbers wise fairly quickly if they do it
very
right.
Quick.
And again, once they get that, once they get that and that monthly money starts rolling in, again, as many people out there has tried to say it's not sustainable, it's not making money. Bullshit. We all know it is. And Sony's going to love seeing that monthly money roll in, and that will give them confidence and start
how many
deals.
How many subscribers does PS Plus have? I think that's got like over 25 million.
Shedding.
Right? So if
I think it's got 40, so closer to 40 million.
40 million.
Yeah.
So if they roll that into straight into a subscription service, and part of your payment is straight into that subscription service, they're already out front out the gate.
Right. Exactly.
That pattern,
that's a huge deal for them.
that pattern is not for backwards compatibility. It's just
it's
not.
not
It's only for backwards compatibility for PS4 titles. It has nothing to do with the PS1, 2, 3 generation, unfortunately. I wish it did. I think that Sony should go in that direction, but it looks like what they're doing with Spartacus is putting an extra tier on there where you're going to be able to stream those PS1, 2, and 3 titles.
But
unfortunately,
the rumor was, Pete, with the Spartacus is that they did have PS1, PS2, and PS3. Now, whether that pattern's been seen or not, the rumor is that it's coming to Spartacus. So if that's the case, and then they roll those subscribers straight out of PS Plus into that subscriber system, like I said, they're already out front, and they'll be ahead of Xbox and subscribers. Subscribers, they announced 25 plus million. I reckon about 26 million.
Yeah, but just like PlayStation now, people don't like the streaming element of it. And the streaming element of it is still going to be there for these PS1, 2, and 3 titles. And that is a big difference between Game Pass. Another big, as well as day and date, that is another sticking point for the PS Now. And yes, they might be doing a rebranding, but if you bring the same thing with a different name, it's not going to make a difference.
But if you can stream it, you can download it. 110%. So that
Well, what they're not doing that with PS Now, are they?
well, they're not doing it with PS Now. But we don't
yeah.
have PS Now in Australia, but we have PS Plus, and you do download games off PS Plus. So they have the systems in place. All they need to do is change the code and get it into the system. And look, if they put a team on it, I can't see it being that difficult.
I don't know. I think
if it wasn't that difficult, they would have done it by now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I just don't. I don't think they've done it because they haven't. It hasn't been a priority for them to do it.
Exactly.
I agree with Grist on that. Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't. Because now they're forced. They're forced now. The same thing with day and date. It's forced now. They have to have a day and date component with what Microsoft is offering. It's pretty much it's
But that's
unbeatable to go
financially.
look at the two. Yeah, financially, I don't know how it would work out for them, but I mean, if you look at a customer, what are you going to select? Which one are you going to choose, right? Microsoft is giving you all this value for almost, pennies compared to Spartacus component, which you don't get day and date of the first party games that everybody seems to praise. You got to do something.
They've either got.
Look, I don't doubt that they can do day and date. I do doubt the fact that they can do downloadable PS1, 2, and 3 titles. I think they will still be streaming. I think that is still going to be a sticking point. I do agree with Risket saying that maybe Wolverine will be the first game that will be day and date. Now, I didn't actually think that they were going to go down this route, but I think Microsoft has forced their hand. I think that they are going to move, like you said, they're going to have to move forward with their plans, their long-term plans. I think they're going to have to bring them forward now. I think they've got 18 months also to work all this out before the deal goes through. So they do have a little bit of time, and they do have a stacked year this year. But,
do you disagree with me?
They will need to change. Yeah,
I'm
I
a
think
little
just because Microsoft
I think you
are
disagree
pushing
with
their
me.
hand now.
It's because you know
Like
what?
I said,
it's because
it's sent shockwaves through the industry. It is the biggest acquisition ever in gaming. Something is going to have to change. The status quo is no longer the status quo.
I didn't even have to suplex you into a grave. I wrote it down the bottom in the ticker. I was going to suplex you into a grave. I didn't even have to do it. You just agree with me. This is crazy. You heard it here first.
Microsoft did the suplexing. They dropped the hammer down when they bought Activision. It is a different ball game than it was on the 17th of January. Unfortunately, not only that, they got onto the top rope and they did some Ultimate Warrior shit, mate. Like they, they did a DDT. They did a suplex. They did a backbreaker. They did a 4-figure leg lock. They did it all in one, mate.
Yeah.
I think my feet just got cold when you agreed with him. I think a little part of health goes over.
I think, Hacksaw Jim Duggan just pulled out his log and belted. This is absolutely crazy. Everything leads back here, but there has been other things happening through the week, and we've got to cover them. We don't have to cover them if the chat doesn't want to. They'll tell us if they're not happy. But I want to cover a couple of things. There's a couple of things that have been pretty interesting in the couple of weeks that we have not been streaming. We missed a week last week. Now, the PS4 producing another million.
Can I jump in on it?
Before you do.
Yes.
Now, look, listen. I did a lot of research on this, and I'm pretty sure Pong's going to disagree with me. I know Jedi is going to disagree with me, and there's going to be a lot of research on chips outside of gaming and inside of gaming. And what I have come to in a roundabout way, it doesn't matter how you look at it, producing another million PS4s is taking resources away from somewhere.
I 100% agree.
If you take, if you're still producing old tech, that means that there's a lot of these factories. There's only 3 that produce the 7nm chip. There's a lot of these factories that are retooling to produce the 7 and the 3s. And if they have an order for 1 million PS4s or chips or 28nm chips, they will not retool to produce new tech because they've already got an order for 1 million. So they'll keep on producing. So in a roundabout way, somewhere down the line, you are taking resources away from somewhere else. Pete.
No, I completely disagree. I absolutely completely disagree. There's just absolutely no way that if Sony could make more PS5 that they wouldn't be doing that. The fact that all they did when they decided to make an extra 1 million PS4s is extended contract that they already had with a chip manufacturer. They didn't, if they were able to make more PS5s, they would. And to say that all factories are retooling to make 7nm chips is just absolutely incorrect, because these old chips are still being used in cars, in microwaves, in things of that nature. These people won't be retooling. And not only that, Trump...
That's incorrect also.
Trump, with his trade war with China, has basically said that Chinese factories can no longer use American patents and American technology to make these semiconductors. So that's why there's also been a shortage. So basically, the only people that make it are Samsung, TMC, and I can't think of the other company off the top of my head. And so they have a the TMC, the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company.
They have a backlog.
They are the biggest.
But these companies that make chips for cars, toothbrushes, you name it, there's chips that go into everything that's electronic. So your toothbrush, your blender, absolutely everything. Your oven with its timer in it. All these things use the chips. And so you're right. Not every single company is retooling to make those chips but when you talk about cars, when you talk about tech like that, those cars do require upgraded chips. They're not going to stay at 28nm forever, and they won't continue to produce. So we obviously need more factories making the 7s, making the 3s, making all this new tech. And when you fill up, when you keep, I mean, 1 million is just a piss in the wind. Absolutely, I agree with you, Pete. I see what you're saying. But when you talk about a company just adding to the stockpile, those million chips, that's taking resources from somewhere. It takes resources to make these chips. They use silicon to make these chips. So
yeah, but the raw material isn't what actually isn't what they need. It's just time to actually produce them. Intel haven't been able to crack the 7nm chips, so they're investing. They're building a new plant in Arizona. TMSC are also investing more money, and they're creating.
You're right. It does take time.
Yeah, and they're creating a new factory in Arizona as well. These factories are going to take 5 to 6 years to actually start manufacturing.
Exactly.
So they're trying to move away from the reliance on TMCS and Samsung, and because of what Trump did, not allowing China to use US technology and US patents to make these chips. So yes, they are expanding. The backlog has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they just can't make any more PS5s. They have put the order in, but at the moment, demand is bigger than
it's because
supply.
they're too busy making 1 million PS4s. That's the problem. Pong.
That's being made at a completely different factory that is not interfering with it whatsoever. What's interfering with it is the buying power of the car company.
What he is saying, what he's saying is that Sony's logistical situation, its manufacturing base, it's not what Microsoft's is, and I think what he's saying is when you. The idea that Sony now has to produce PlayStation 4s and effectively, or continue producing PlayStation 4s as it is, and that effectively has to compete with a Series S as an obsolete last-gen console. I think what Riskit was getting at is it highlights, I don't want to say desperation, because that's perhaps a strong word, but there is a certain cause for concern, at least with how Sony, their supply side and how logistically how dire the situation has become. So you're not wrong, but in principle, Riskit's completely correct, because you can, at its most rudimentary core, you cannot produce a last generation console, which could very well invariably be more expensive, right, than a Series S. It very well could be. And then have an obsolete console compete against the current gen console with a full suite of accessibility to current gen titles. I think that's what Riskit was saying. And
no, what he's saying is making more PS5s is stopping them from making more PS4s is going to somehow impact the amount of PS5s that they're making, and it's just absolutely incorrect.
No,
it's absolutely incorrect.
He would, because even if it's a quarter inch or whatever it is for you guys, of silicon, that silicon, I mean, granted, that could go to a place. Now, obviously, you can much more easily acquire silicon than you can, the conductors and things like that. But ultimately, he's right. You have a finite, right, stockpile of resources. And if you have to expend them in a way that is not the most financially optimal way to do so, I think Risk is right. I think it's very simple. I'm not saying it's like a doomsday scenario. I don't think he was either. But it's pretty basic.
Look, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying making 1 million PS4s is going to take away 1 million PS5s. It might only take away, say, 100,000, but it's going to affect production somewhere along the line. That's 110%. Pong, I'm going to go. Pong, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, look, I think Jedi is right. I think that, obviously they're just extending what they were already doing. Now, to your point, if you want to get down, and you want to get down to ground level, absolutely. Of course, it's taking resources away from somewhere. But at the end of the day, I'm going to defer to the financial wizards over at Sony and say that they looked at what it would take away from what little it would take away from their PS5 stock to continue to produce PS4s at 1 million clip for this year, and what the overall cost that would be being able to sell those consoles, because we know right now PS4s, Xbox Ones are still selling. GameStop is giving a lot of money for old hardware because people are looking for it, and all their games this year, their new games, are cross-gen, right? So they looked at the risk-reward factor and had to obviously see that the rewards were much greater than whatever they were giving up, right, to do so. But so at the most basic level, I think you're right, Risk It. But overall, I think Jedi is right that they're not doing themselves great harm by continuing to produce PS4s in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's where it's at. I think it's a smart business move. Again, considering the fact that we know of
competing with Series S's with the PS4?
Yes.
No,
because again, you still have the mindshare worldwide. You still have that mindshare. There are still people that are going to see Horizon coming out, seeing Gran Turismo coming out. They haven't been able to find a PS5, or their family member is looking to jump in, and they're going to go out and get a PS4.
So how long do we support?
I agree to a degree with that, Pong, but then at the point, I think we're past the point of diminishing returns. Everybody who was going to get a PS4 by this point pretty much has one. So I don't really see that being
not true, because GameStop is selling them for a premium, right?
Not necessarily. If you look at things through the past, like people have still bought the older consoles.
Selling them at a premium doesn't necessarily mean that they're highly sought after for all these casual people, is what I'm saying. And then you have that issue where now the PS4 is as much, if not more, than the next gen Series S. Now,
correct. I'm not saying it's optimal.
For people, but somebody at one point is going to say, "Hey, next gen Series S with Game Pass and all this value here, or me getting an old PS4, something's going to have to give."
But the problem is, do casuals know that? Do they know the difference between a PS4 and a Series S when they see them at the same prices? Obviously, we do. We're in that industry, but do the casuals know that? I'm not so sure. I think the PS4s will sell, but my main problem with it is the Jim Ryan quote that we believe in generations.
Yeah, but we knew that was market. This
is certainly gonna mean that more games are going to be tailored to be cross-generation, and the advancements in technology that PlayStation put into the 5 are not going to be utilized, and that's my main problem with it.
Hang on, that's not true. They are utilized if you have $10. No, but look, that's a very good point. That's the point I was going to make before. Is now how long do we support cross-gen if you're PlayStation? They've got to go at least another 2 years, right?
Well, they said 3 to 4, right? So they came out and said 3 to 4.
But when they announced
last year,
and now is it 5 to 6? I mean,
probably not.
They're putting out those extras.
Hopefully, if all things go well, things start to loosen up by next year. So then at that point, they can, start really tailing off. But I think for the time being, I think you're going to see.
So everybody that buys PlayStation 4 for this generation, Sony's just basically going to shit on in 2 years. Like, basically, that's. Yeah, I mean, that's terrible. That's terrible marketing.
But it is.
Yeah.
But again, that they got what they wanted out of it. Again, people blasted Xbox for coming out and being transparent, right? So they had that at the time. It was the move, and Sony's done this throughout their history, right? So it's nothing new. They go back on what they say. That's how they do business sometimes, right? So
Short-term game negatively going to impact your brand in the long term. I don't like it.
Right, but they didn't see that at the time, right? At the time, and we've heard the stories as well, that they were trying to decimate Xbox, that the pandemic is what killed them, that their plans were to have all of these titles. They were planning on having Horizon, God of War, everything out last year. They were planning on that. That's what they
and they
wanted
knew
to have
Microsoft
happen.
was behind with their, they did know that as well.
Exactly.
They
They were
started
gonna
making the
overwhelm-
PS5 a whole year earlier. You're right.
They were going to overwhelm Xbox out the gate, is what they were trying to do. And unfortunately, the pandemic blew those plans up. But they kept going with the narrative, right? And it's going to, like you said, at the end, right, that short-term pain that they might have had by going this route, the long-term, it probably hurt them in the long term, for sure. I mean, again, we can all sit back and say that now, but at the time, their plan was totally different, right? It was right in line with
that
what
is
they've done
absolutely
before.
true.
Yeah,
That
all
is
the
true.
narratives that were trying to frame all got changed up on them. So true.
So what you got to agree with Pog, but you never agree. No, that's all good. Look, anyway, what's going on here? Look, that kind of brings me to the next thing, Spartacus. Like, what? So look, they're behind. They're on the back foot. They've taken some hits. We know what they need. They need to get some IPs through the door. They need to get maybe some studios through the door to counter punch. But one of their counter punches is definitely going to be Spartacus. But how is it going to compete with Game Pass now? Like, what kind of what could they possibly do? It has to be day and date.
Yeah.
They have to have a day and date model. And
I
that's,
think some of them will be day and date.
I think
but
it's gonna hurt them though, General, isn't it? Do you think it's gonna hurt their bottom line? 110%. It hurt Microsoft's bottom line to start off with.
It will. I think a few of their main titles they'll bring day and date into their Game Pass competitor. But I think they obviously need to launch with a hefty backlog to interest people, and that needs to cover back compat from past PlayStation generations, in my opinion.
Right, but so old games can save the old dog, is what you're saying.
Well, they saved Xbox for a while.
That's true. That is absolutely true. But we know that Sony players, old games don't matter.
Yeah, Sony players are also they also say a lot of things, and then they go back on those things and they move the goalposts like they always do.
That is untrue. That is I've never seen a Sony player move the goalpost. What are you saying?
I mean, I'd love to play PlayStation's backlog. I'd love to get a PlayStation 5, but unfortunately, I've not had the chance to get one. I've still got my PlayStation 4, which I've barely touched in the 2 years I've had the year I've had my Series X.
Don't stress. I've had a PlayStation 5 for 6 months, and it holds one of my doors open. I haven't even got it plugged in.
In my opinion, it
You mean it is a
needs to
door?
have a hefty backlog to compete with Game Pass.
Oh, 110%. Umbra, what do you
I agree
think?
with that.
And it all depends on how they market it as well. I think they have an opportunity here. They have so many great games in their backlog. I think Spartacus could be a big winner for them. It depends on how they do it. They really need to reverse the situation of PSNow. So, look, let's hope they can do that. Competition has what has led Xbox to this point. The absolute killing that PlayStation 4 gave Xbox One last generation is what has brought Xbox to this point. Competition is key, so I'm hoping that Sony can, return fire, can get off the floor and, land that blow, because competition is what has brought Game Pass to us. That value in Game Pass And I know all the ponies say that Game Pass isn't a good thing for gaming. I don't see that. I've tried so many games this last year because of Game Pass. And, as soon as Spartacus starts giving these games to the PlayStation community, I think that narrative will change pretty quickly. What do you think about Spartacus Umbra? Do you think it'll be successful? Do you think it can rival Game Pass?
My thing for it, Risk and Jedi, and is that basically it can be, because Sony has very loyal fans, sometimes to their detriment. But regardless of that, I think the enticing thing of all these past games, even though the narrative from Sony fanboys were, we don't like to play old games. Yes, they do. And yes, they will. So once they bring them there, absolutely that will matter.
Ghost of Tsushima a year later again on their PlayStation 5.
Exactly, Jen. But even beyond that, Sony has something up their sleeves that they can use to their advantage that Microsoft doesn't have.
Yeah, they've got a backlog of amazingly made games that tell great stories, and they can just push all them into their service, and people are going to go and eat that up.
Not just that. Not just that though, Jen. And I would agree with you there, but not just that. But they have the Crunchyroll and Funimation situation that they can actually roll into that. They have movies that they can roll into it as well. So they have ways to do it, that they can actually entice people to get into it that will work. But it depends on how to implement it, and it depends on the pricing. So it comes down to a lot of factors,
the
really.
way they'll implement it is it'll be a tier system like Game Pass Ultimate. If you want the extra stuff like the animation for and movies and all that stuff, you'll pay an extra fee for that, like the Game Pass Ultimate.
Witcher was an old game, and when the Witcher series released on Netflix, the amount of people that jumped back into the game was great. CD Projekt Red loved it. And PlayStation have the same thing coming. They've got a Twisted Metal franchise that they are now remaking with the show that's coming along with it. The Uncharted show or movies. Yep, exactly, and it will reinvigorate these IPs that are there, and if they have that into Spartacus and they can somehow combine the two, I can only see a winning situation for Sony, and I'm really interested to see how they do it. Sony are still, second in terms of revenue. They still have that mind share across the world, so PlayStation will still be here, and we want them to compete. We want them to compete for our dollars. I don't think they're going about it the right way so far this generation. I think that they believe that they were so far in front that they lost a little bit of their direction. That's hopefully that this can bring them back, and they can get that good consumer sentiment back.
They got far too comfortable, and now they're realizing it.
Yes. Yep.
It's a painful lesson to learn.
Tong and we didn't get Tong and Shit's take on it though. What would you guys do about that?
Sorry, I was just really distracted. You guys just dropped Phil Spencer's being charged with assault.
What was the assault charge?
Yeah, he's being charged in a London High Court. Apparently, he brutally dragged his balls across Jim Ryan's face. So I was just
it's going somewhere like that.
I got a little caught up. Sorry, scared me.
I had to bite my tongue for a minute just in case it turned out to be serious.
I was very quiet as well, but it came from shits, mate. So
we knew it was coming.
Literally and figuratively. No, I got you. But that's what I'm here for, the balls joke. But I'm only here for cock, Like that's my topic. I thought, usually they save the porn conversate and the PS porn at the end. I get I get a good send off. But no, in terms of they brought it a little early this time. I'll have to get more creative. But in terms of I think what they're trying to do, can it compete with Game Pass? I mean, I guess it depends on the metric of competition, right? So in terms of, is it going to be able to offer the day and date and all the awesome, nuanced shit you get with Game Pass? No, it's not. Is it going to have, though, and I think Jedi and Riskit made a great point and they agreed again without noticing. But we'll have the subscriber count. It will. So I don't know if that's competition. I mean, it's competition because it's coming about. It exists. It thinks therefore it is. So that's true. Do I think in terms of what it's going to offer, I don't think anyone's under any illusion that you're going to get out of Spartacus what you're going to get out of Game Pass. And I mean, I think, and you're naming it after a man that started a slave revolt and then was brutally murdered by the state. So, that's a little telling.
But it definitely does say something. You're quite right. But look at what's coming to Game Pass like this month. You got Hitman Trilogy, Rainbow Extraction, Death's Door, Nobody Saves the World, which you can see on screen now. It's going from strength to strength. But here's the other thing. There's no reason that Sony can't then also buy into that and have a Hitman Trilogy, have Extraction, have Death's Door, in Spartacus, have these third-party titles inside their Spartacus. And then if you think about that, these third-party, who's going to benefit from that? Gamers and the third-party developers.
Again, so what you would have to do to analyze the veracity, the possibility of that, and I think this is where, because I think Pong's like me and kind of really financially oriented, you would have to look at whatever Sony's SEC filings are, and you'd have to look at the P&I, you'd have to look at that P&I statement and see where the revenue is really coming from. And my understanding is that, and this is the problem, they need a day and date. I agree with you. I think in a perfect world they'd have it. I think they've definitely staked their claim on traditional, vending models on digital downloads and, hard copy sales. I think we've seen now that that's collectively, as a corporation, to its detriment. In terms of just the landscape of the industry has changed. It's just we're moving towards a subscription service-based model. It's already here. It came with Game Pass, and the narrative's only strengthening that we've been talking about Spartacus. So I would have to see the P&I, and I would have to see where that revenue is coming from. And frankly, I don't think it's feasible. I don't think they can do it. But I'm not I don't work for Sony's, financial department. My understanding as a layman, though, is that is a very tall order for a corporation who has planted its flag on the hill of a traditional sales model, at least this generation, because Game Pass was this 6.5-7 year endeavor to lay the infrastructure for that, to strike the deals, to get it. They don't have time. I mean, not Phil Spencer, but Microsoft in general, pretty much sacrificed an entire generation.
But they've already put their foot in the door. Phil Spencer already put his foot in the door. They've already proved it can work. So you're not going to have the nervousness or the reluctance from third-party developers to come into a subscription service, especially with the right price. And the right price doesn't have to be as much as Microsoft's right price. And indeed, Microsoft's price could come down if there's two companies with subscription services. I'm sure things got cheaper when Prime came in, when Disney came in. Things were a bit cheaper. So, I mean, and then there's the other thing. Phil Spencer said himself in a New York Times interview that the transactional business is still bigger than subscription. So and PlayStation's transactional business, well, they're number 2, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think it's analogy. So you can look at any innovation, and for the first couple years, after the automobile was invented, there were still 400 times as many people using horses. So, you would have to look at.
You taking a shot at ponies? What's that?
No, well, no. I guess I'm intrinsically driven to laugh at the asinine nature of a horse. I can't explain it, but so yeah, right. Fuck 'em. But I look at it and I think so. When people tell me, obviously, and I'm not slanting them, obviously, you can sell games traditionally. The question that bothers me, it doesn't bother me. It does concern me. It makes me a little nervous because I play PlayStation. I like PlayStation games. And what bothers me is the time. You're looking at, and Pong was right about this, and you were, and I think Umbra, everybody pretty much highlighted it. Day one, when you shed 14% of your market value, or of your market cap, right? Obviously, that's investors' a gut reaction. I understand it. But you have to reassure your shareholders, your investors, that there is some sort of grand plan, and the radio silence is telling. And I honestly, for Sony to go in, and they have to move into a subscription service-based model. The problem is I am genuinely convinced that they cannot, and it's just logistics. It's resources. It's to do so is a mammoth and Herculean undertaking that the world's largest company might only barely have just pulled off. So I'm very skeptical because they should have done it a year ago when it was 18 million. And when you look at growth now, right, if you achieve double-digit growth, that's exponential, right? Because you're multiplying by an exponent. It's more than, it's more than just adding a flat percentage. I think if they could have done it to the degree to which it would have successfully and substantively been seen to be able to be a Game Pass competitor, that we would have started hearing about it 6 months ago, because they would have done it a year ago. And I haven't seen it. Nobody's seen it. And I'll be honest, I'm skeptical and I'm pessimistic about it. I don't think they can do it.
Pong, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, I kind of laid out the plan before as well. So I think that, again, they just have to create enough value where a large portion of the base that they already have that are invested in that ecosystem are willing to move over and subscribe. Now, keeping that subscription base is always going to be the problem, because content-wise, again, as we've seen with Xbox, they're spending a lot of money. I mean, Grubb said that there's billions set aside just for Game Pass. And so Sony is going to, again, Jim Ryan's a numbers guy. That's why he's there. That's why he's in the position. That's why Sean Layden is no longer there. Jim Ryan was brought in to trim the fat and make that bottom line look as nice and tight as possible, because, as we all know, PlayStation is the main source of income for Sony as a corporation outside of the insurance business, right? So we all know this. But Jim's going to have to adjust. And again, every plan that they had is now accelerated tenfold because of the pandemic, because of the growth of the industry, and because of
competition.
Yeah. Correct. Because Microsoft has decided to put their full weight behind Xbox, make Xbox and the gaming division. Again, Bill has a new title, CEO of Microsoft Games. That cannot be undersold. That
exactly.
means,
I think you're right, 100%.
That is huge. They are now a pillar of Microsoft Corporation.
Yes.
Okay? Now they have multiple pillars, unlike Sony. They have multiple pillars, so they can go ahead and say, "Hey, we're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, and we can do this during a growth phase." Sony can't do it to the level that Xbox can. However, Sony has the advantage when it comes to the base of consumers. They develop that relationship with their consumers. The consumers love what they put out content-wise, and they love the brand of PlayStation. So as long as they give them enough value with other content, movies, music, anime, all that kind of stuff that they can throw at it, they can, again, I don't know if it's going to be every title day and date. I do believe they have to start. I think Gran Turismo is the first one, as I said before. If they do that kind of stuff and then they go and work those partnerships like they always have, they're going to have to spend money, more money than Jim was probably planning on. They're going to have to shift those balance sheets around. But at the end of the day, they go work those partnerships, secure some deals, just like Xbox has with some third parties, get some big titles in there day and date for Spartacus Startup. Chance. Again, it's never going to be one for one, but they can instantly have 40, 50 million subscribers real quick out the gates, whereas Microsoft has had to work extremely hard to get to that point. Microsoft has other advantages, but Sony can use what they've got right now. And as long as they can get that subscriber base up there, their service, because Sony's name's behind it, because they have the subscription base already, that service becomes very enticing to cut deals with third parties more and more. Sony's going to work that angle very hard. I know they probably already are.
Do you think that Sony are able to take their PS Plus? I think it's in Australia it's $11 a month. Do you think that Sony can take their subscriber base, say, listen, we're shutting down Plus. It's no longer going to be 11. It's going to be 15, or it's going to be 17, and you're going to get this extra content, but you now don't have the option to go with Plus. this is what you have.
Not even Microsoft have done that. They're still relying on the revenue from gold. That would be a very, very bold move on Sony's behalf. I can't see them doing that.
This is Sony we're talking about. Do you think?
I agree. I think they do it. I think they convert. I think that they take a loss, whatever percentage that they're calculating, but I think that they plan on an 80% conversion rate. 75, 80%.
I don't know. That's
yeah. What
they were? Yeah, I mean the brand. So I was a PlayStation gamer last gen, and it's pretty obvious where my sentiments lie now. So I can speak as somebody that was really a PlayStation. It can be done. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think you could, 70%, maybe. The problem is now, I mean, so in order for them to compete, right, hypothetically, and I don't think they can do it, I'll be totally honest. I genuinely don't. But you have to remember, even if they were going to do that, right, Sony, how many in-house studios does Sony have? Something like 16, 17? I'm going to defer that to Risk It. I know he's probably got a better count. What's it, 16, 17, brother?
Studios have got 17.
Right, and that's factoring all the support studios, the blue boxes, the Nexus, things like that. So they don't have 17 studios producing content, right? At least in terms of generating, like IPs we would play. They've got support studios refining things, remakes in the case of Blue Point. You're looking
studios, VR studios.
Right, and it's so let's. A conservative estimate, let's say there's maybe a dozen, 13, 14 of those studios, right? How many studios is under Microsoft's umbrella? Even if they could, right, in a world, of fairy dust and all that, even if they could somehow match the model, right, they're gonna make this great service. Spartacus will somehow not be a roving shit show from hell, which I'm convinced it will be, but. Yep. Right. And this is under in a perfect world, right? Even if they could do that, right? Gamers are changing. We're all a bit older, in our late 20s, 30s, perhaps even older than that. There's a new generation. You're looking at a company that can say, okay, well, we've got, let's give them the full 17, benefit of the doubt. Fuck it, right? Let's be optimistic. Something I rarely do, especially where Sony's concerned. But even if they could do it, even if they put every game day and date, right, in a perfect world. If Microsoft has twice as many, and they have more than twice as many studios, they have more than 34 in-house studios. They have to do everything at the same price point, and they're only going to put out theoretically, half the content. And now that they're accelerating everything, Pong makes a great point. And I agree, they do have to accelerate their plans. When you accelerate plans, you wind up with varying degrees of fuckery. You open yourself, and that's just par for the course. They would have to have studios making 4 games instead of 2. It's just they're really punching out of the weight. It's really starting to show, and I think Sony at the end of the day is going to, they're not stupid. They're going to arrive at a very simple calculus, which is that it would be folly to attempt to do that, to attempt to at least to fight Microsoft like that. I think Sony's best strategy going forward is they can resurrect a couple of IPs where they're glaringly deficient. They need some RPGs, particularly of a Western variety. They sure as hell need shooters. So maybe a Killzone, maybe a Resistance, the Holy Grail, SOCOM. But even then, if these games aren't under development now, we're looking at 3-4 years. They can't pour the financial support into their studios that Microsoft can. Eventually, this becomes the tortoise and the hare. They started out great. They let it slip, and the sheer differences between the size of the fighters is very telling.
There are a lot of third-party deals that Sony have already implemented. They've got themselves into. I know there's a shooter being made by Call of Duty, Destiny, and Halo. I'm not sure what the name of the studio is, but they're working on a shooter that has an exclusivity deal with PlayStation. I think Jade Redmond has a studio that's working on a deal with PlayStation. So there are games coming. There are games in the pipeline. They are doing it their own way. Will these companies be so willing to do third-party deals with PlayStation now that the industry has changed so much? I mean, that's a wait-and-see thing, isn't it?
It would depend on
that's true.
But even then, if they were to resurrect all 3 of those titles, right, Killzone, SOCOM resistance, right? Even if they did that and they turned out a new one every year, right? Somehow, but by the grace of God, that those won't account for the 17 or 18 studio deficit they're faced with. And these games now, because they continue to manufacture PlayStation 4s, and that's just where they're at. Then all their games now have to be cross-gen, which means you could take the greatest, but it's not. It's just at a rudimentary hardware level. Microsoft can produce current gen only titles, right? So you're looking at a quality deficit, because there's no way around that. When you have to produce something cross gen, you're gonna have a quality deficit vis-a-vis something that can be produced exclusively current gen. I think,
and Microsoft has an advantage there, being able to cloud stream these games through Xbox Series X server blades, which will run it at 60. It'll be at 1080p, but it will be at 60. So even if you don't jump to next generation, you can play these games on your Xbox One. That's also another advantage that I think Microsoft knows that they have. Soon, Samsung TVs are going to have a Game Pass app on there. You're not even going to need a console to be able to play these games. All these things are coming to fruition, and they're going to be coming very, very soon. So the game has certainly changed.
Does Sony
Just
have
wait
the
till
time?
Xbox have that answer to, like, where there's a Fire Stick.
Oh yeah,
I believe that they are developing
right
that
in
at the moment.
They'll have that.
I believe they are.
You'll get a kit.
I
It'll
know
be a
that-
controller. It'll be a plug-in, and there you go. You go away with
Right,
your
Exactly.
game.
and then
Yeah.
just right in there with Game Pass. Yep. And
I
that's
think Momad in the chat said that Samsung TVs will actually have Game Pass inbuilt into them this year.
okay. I don't know anything. I'd be very interested actually to know about that. If anybody has any information, Monad, if you could put it in the chat, I'd very much like to see where you're getting that. That interests me. I've not heard of that.
And even if it ain't this year, it's coming soon.
Yeah, if it's under development period.
But are we there yet? Look, are we at the point? Look, Cloud Stream, it's good. It's not bad. It's not great. So
But it gets casuals in, people that don't want to pay that $300 barrier to get them into next generation. They can try it out for a price of a controller, basically. And I'm sure Microsoft will throw in a month of free Game Pass so they can try all these games out. Not everyone will take to it, but there will be a lot that will.
And it'll only improve. Pong, what do you think? You think it's the next step?
For Xbox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the stick is coming. I think the apps are coming. I think that the cloud market, as tech catches up, and it's going to take a while. I mean, obviously, if you look at average speeds in America, it's still paltry. It's like
It really is.
30 download or something like that. I mean, it's crazy. But I think that Microsoft has invested heavily in tech to try to improve that as well. The acquisition of Bethesda also included Orion Tech, which was which was a huge showcase that they showed prior to the acquisition. That was long before Microsoft came into the picture and we're going to acquire them, and that was impressive. I mean, we're talking about low latency, and who knows where that's in as far as implementation goes. So I think that for sure they're going to offer deals like that, and it's not going to be for everyone, right? But it's a start, and this is their plan. Again, Xbox, Microsoft, they don't think like a lot of us do. It's easy to get in the bubble and think about, well, what's tomorrow going to look like? They've got groups of people that are hired for big money just to forecast 10, 15, 20 years down the road and where tech's going to be. And that's what's brought Xbox to this point today, right? The back work that they started when they decided they're going to stick in the game, and that the Game Pass was going to be that vehicle, and xCloud was going to be a giant part of that. All that work that they put in led them up to right now. And you saw what happened when the pandemic hit. They couldn't have planned for that, right? Nobody saw that coming. However, again, they created their own luck. And that again accelerated where they are at. And what did they do? They sacrificed Xbox Series X sales to change out the server blades to make sure that xCloud was as good as could possibly be, as quick as it possibly could be last year. That plan was supposed to go carry through this year. They accelerated by an entire year and sacrificed sales. So again, I think that they're moving that way. I think that again, we're 2 generations from even approaching a console-less kind of, digital only streaming kind of service. I think that hardware is still going to give you the best, but again, their plan is to move into the mobile market. Their plan is wherever you are at, you can have access to your game library and play the games, right? It may not always be the same quality, it may not be the best experience, but you're always going to have access. And I think they continue to do that, but the streaming stick for sure, that's definitely coming out, and a lot of people have said this year. I would expect around holiday this year they offer that. Just another opportunity for people who may not still be able to find a console, who cannot afford another console, to at least attempt to get the experience. Because if you know your home network is strong enough, you're going to go out and buy that stick and just plug it in, like everybody did with Google Chrome and all that kind of stuff. They're going Chromecast, I should say, and they're just going to do it, and they're going to try it out. And again, it may not be the best. May not, but for certain games like a Starfield, a slower type game where you don't need it, the best experience in the world, people are still going to be able to enjoy those games and get into the ecosystem. And I think that's going to carry them a long ways going down the road. And again, in the future, man, they are setting themselves up for nothing but success. Again, 2 billion to 3 billion is the goal. People laughed, but that is their goal. And when you think about that number and how they're going to reach it, everything they're doing, all this investment is making a whole lot of sense when it comes from Xbox.
Yeah, and that's what Phil Spencer said in the Washington Post interview. He said, I've really been advocating internally in the company that gaming would be the catalyst for us. And he goes on to say things like Facebook has the social and Amazon has shipping, and that's what gaming is going to be for Microsoft now. It's going to be a catalyst, and you're absolutely right. It does allow them to hit those billions of gamers. Gaming is the biggest creative market that we have. It's bigger than movies. It's bigger than music. Yeah, it is massive. It is massive, and Microsoft have positioned.
The only thing that holds it back is accessibility, right? That's the only.
Exactly, and Microsoft have positioned themselves to get over that massive hurdle by just having a stick that you can plug into any smart TV. It's just, the future is here. It is just going to take a couple of generations.
Well, look, when you think about that, what then holds it back? And it's always going to be internet. Always going to be latency.
Exactly.
And consumer hesitance. I mean, consumers will hesitate. Typically, you get a new technology, and we're still seeing with Game Pass. It takes a while for technology, however innovative that it might be, to really commercially catch on. I think that's a part of it.
Oh, there's still people that don't know about Game Pass. I was talking to a guy in Spain last week. He was an English guy, PlayStation guy. And he caught wind of the podcast, and he wanted to talk about it. He had no idea about Game Pass. Should have seen his eyes widen when I explained to him what Game Pass was.
He bought an Xbox.
Not every game is going to be a first-person shooter where latency is actually going to affect it. What actually might happen is, because of this ability to make cloud games, they might actually try and make different games. What Kojima's doing with his game is meant to be extremely innovative, and I can see more of that happening in the gaming space, where they actually start to implement the fact that they are going for cloud first and not console first. So we don't know what could come out of this, but it's a very creative space, the gaming industry, and I'm sure smarter people than me are thinking of ways around it.
There's no one smarter than you, Jedi. Chin up, dog.
Thank you, brother.
Except me.
Hey, Risk, did we ever cover Phil Dominus Maximus tweet recently from the other day?
It's Filius Sonius Decimatus. That's his name. Just so.
His tweet.
Now the CEO of Xbox, by the way.
Yeah, the CEO of Xbox. Yeah, we did cover that. But your tweet where he said he was, I can't remember the exact wording, but he was hoping to keep COD or looking at keeping COD.
Says we expect that Microsoft
go,
will
yeah.
abide. This is what Sony tweeted out. We expect, when they were really, really scared, mind you, and they didn't do this
Yeah.
for the Bethesda buyout. We expect that Microsoft will abide by the contractual agreements and continue to ensure Activision games are multi-platform. That smelt of fear.
Well, you
Phil,
can wish him,
as
can wish him
always,
and shit in the other. and
said,
see what goes up there.
we had good calls this week with the leaders at Sony. I confirm our intent to honour all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry and we value our relationship.
Where do you think that goes, Umbra? Where do you think that goes?
I mean, well, you have to read between the lines, right? So his words were, had good calls. I'm going to actually read it as it sounds when you actually hear it, right? To me, at least, because a lot of people, even people who I communicate with often, it went over their head and they were like all doom and gloom. And I'm talking about Xbox fanboys.
Yeah, I saw that
He
in the
said-
community. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like relax. For one, even if it does still reside on Sony's platform, that doesn't hurt you. That doesn't hurt us. Come to Game Pass, you'll be fine.
Exactly.
But it said,
Yeah.
that's the one major tenet that everybody has to get past. But then it says, had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important
They
part of
said
our
something
industry.
very similar when they bought Bethesda into the Umbra.
He
Yeah,
said
the
something very
verbiage is-
similar. And it was pretty obvious what he meant there. And then, some people missed the forest for the trees.
Those words, intent and desire, that you
Exactly.
really sit there and think about.
And you played the clip at the start of the show, Risket, when he said that I want all people on Xbox to know that we did this acquisition to get games exclusive on platforms where Game Pass exists.
Exactly. And there's no
This
other
is
way to look
probably
at it than that.
the intent he's personally thinking. His intent is putting a business plan together to get Game Pass onto Xbox, and that's also his desire.
PlayStation, you mean? Yeah.
PlayStation, I mean, yeah.
Umbra?
Well,
Xbox 2, if you will.
well, they said.
Look, I personally think this means that exactly what you're saying there, Umbra. You've got to listen to the words. I put out a tweet earlier today. You got to listen to the words and what he said, and then you got to go back and look at history. Like, this is history repeating. We're having the same conversations that happened last time. He's going to honor these contractual agreements. He has to. I think I heard somewhere or read somewhere they've got a contractual agreement till 2024, and I don't doubt he'll honor that. And they may get 2 more COD games. And I've heard people say, yeah, they'll keep the campaign as exclusive, and the multiplayer and Warzone will go to PlayStation. No, it's not going to happen. Warzone is going to stay. It's going to stay free to play. And then
Wouldn't it be free COD games?
COD will be campaign, multiplayer, Xbox. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You got to remember that this is a $70 billion deal. And he does not want to derail it by saying something stupid like right now, especially with all the talk about monopolies in the media and the bullshit that's going on. He doesn't want to derail it. He's going to say what he needs to say to get this deal through the gate, and then he will do what he needs to do for his company.
Well, I think it's very telling. I mean, and I agree. It's exactly what they said with Bethesda, right? They said it's not our intent to take our properties away from PlayStation or Sony platform, where we have great thriving communities of gaming. And what did we see? Yeah, they can still play the Elder Scrolls Online, and if, they can find a few people to play Fallout 76, then they'll keep that shit rolling too. But
and PlayStation players will still be able to play Call of Duty Warzone.
Warzone, exactly. I think
And Vanguard.
And Vanguard,
yep. And Vanguard, yep. Hey, and Ghosts.
Yeah, they'll keep Vanguard.
If anyone's playing it. Yeah.
And the one with Kevin Spacey, the creepy one. Yeah, they can have Kevin Spacey. They can have the washed out World War II shooter and the child molester. I think that's what they'll say. But no, but it is. I think it's exactly the same. This is the Bethesda playbook. They've chosen almost the exact same wording. The verbiage is the same. Call of Duty, and that's what he's saying. They're not going to take anything from you the same way if you're on PlayStation. You can still play the Elder Scrolls or, the John Denver knockoff of Fallout, and that's fine. But they're not going to give you the Elder Scrolls 6 because 4 months after that, the Elder Scrolls 6 was announced as an Xbox
Look,
exclusive.
Umbra made a great point there, man, and it kind of bothered me a little bit to see it in the community and just it was. Well, I can't wrap my head around it. Who gives a flying fuck if PlayStation still has it? It's gonna be in Game Pass. It's gonna be in Game Pass. You're gonna get to play it for free if you're on the Xbox ecosystem. It doesn't really matter if PlayStation players get to play it.
It does. It does. Well, no, I would love for them to be able to get. No, I'm not trying.
Yeah, but
it
it's
does
about
matter.
expanding Game Pass more than anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And you still
have
expand
20
Game Pass, don't you? You still expand Game if you have that for free to play. You're gonna have casuals who are gonna go, well, I gotta pay $70 for it over here, and I hope they keep it at $70 if it stays on PlayStation. And get it for $70 over here, I'm gonna get it for $15 a month over there.
Yeah, but we've still got to remember there's a reason why the Series S exists, and that's to push people that have a PlayStation into Game Pass.
Exactly. I think I think the general's right. I think you don't drop that kind of money in order to keep your competition borderline unscathed. It just doesn't happen.
The only way I personally see it coming to PlayStation is if Game Pass comes to PlayStation.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen.
Like Phil said,
It could happen, and this could be the move.
That's the desire. We desire to keep it there. We desire. Well, he also desires Game Pass on PlayStation. That's not going to happen. Therefore, the desire is not met, and they ain't getting the damn thing. That's ultimately, and that's why you use words like that. You issue statements and releases like that because you leave it ambiguous and semi-nebulous. And I don't think there's in my mind
I still think Phil's statement after the Bethesda deal went through about platforms where Game Pass exists. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's the exact same.
The inevitability is going to happen. Eventually, Sony is going to have to go, we need to accept Game Pass on our system.
But that'll be the day that Microsoft buys Sony.
I don't know. This could be the move that forces Sony to go, well, we have to do this.
And that will help the acquisition go through as well, because Microsoft will just say, if they want these games on there, they can just put Game Pass on their console. Exactly. We've already offered it to them.
They're the ones that are declining it, not us.
Exactly.
Here's the Game Pass. We're just waiting for you to accept it.
Just like crossplay.
Right, and Microsoft negotiates that from a position of strength. And if they don't take it, then that nullifies whatever obligation Microsoft would theoretically have to, I think the statements aren't necessarily disingenuous. They're just, it's a foregone conclusion that's not going to happen.
They're not disingenuous. They're vague, and they're purposely vague. And he does that all the time.
There is a reason Phil chose to use the words intent and desire, because his desire is to get Game Pass on as many platforms as possible, even the Nintendo Switch, if he can.
I want to get Pong's take on this one. What do you think, Pong? You think Phil's trying to get PlayStation to bend the knee?
First of all, can we stop saying Phil said this? This is $1,000 an hour attorneys. Okay. This is their words. Okay. This is not Phil on Twitter. Okay. This is the attorney speak right now, because again, every word has to be carefully placed. Like I said to you guys in the green room.
You're saying Phil doesn't write his own scripts?
No, that one right there.
Heart.
That one after an acquisition. No, he does not. Look, especially of this magnitude. Like I said to you guys in the green room, if I'm Phil Spencer, I'm cutthroat. Okay, that's just me personally. I would be cutthroat. That's just how.
But you're not publicly cutthroat.
No,
and he's not saying they can't have COD.
I'm not saying that. There's a couple different layers to this thing. There is a lot of outs in the verbiage. You are all correct in that fact. The deal here is whether or not internally they consider Call of Duty more Minecraft or they consider it more Elder Scrolls.
Exactly.
There's a couple different things when it comes to Call of Duty. Elder Scrolls is one thing. It's a big franchise. It sells a lot, but it comes out once every 8-10 years. Okay. It's not a yearly thing. Now, when it comes to Call of Duty, it's more of a platform at this point. And I agree 100%. My initial thoughts out the gate is once the contracts are up, Warzone stays. Mainline Call of Duty is absolutely exclusive. Okay, that's the easy way. We've got an example of this in the acquisition of ZeniMax, how this is going to play out. So I don't discredit anything that anybody has to say about that. That is definitely probably the highest probability here. A couple different things at play, though. Again, if they consider Call of Duty more like Minecraft, and they are no longer going to do a yearly release, they change that up to a buy, or even a 3-year release, then I think that changes it, right? Because then, again, at the end of the day, if this is something that you are going to play nicey with, if you are going to use this as a bargaining chip, I don't think you necessarily... Do I think that this is a move to strong arm? Yes, I do. I think overall this is a move to strong arm. Terms-wise, I don't know if they go for the jugular and say you have to have Game Pass. I think they could go for a lesser route, and I think they could have Sony take less fees. I think they could have Sony cancel the cross-platform play fees that they charge. I think they could go that route and negotiate those types of things with Sony as well.
Does that mitigate it enough, though? I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's enough of a mitigating factor.
But if it's no longer annual, right?
Yeah,
if you really say Warzone's going to be ongoing, right? And automatically Warzone, we all believe Warzone is going to be cross-platform. What if Warzone is now your main vehicle of Call of Duty?
Then that becomes for people.
Right. But then it becomes no longer as important in the long run if you have to concede that Call of Duty stays multi-plat, right? So there's a bunch of different factors here at play. Again, overall, I think the probability is high that exactly what you all are saying is the way this is going to go down. That Phil is saying the right words, that his attorneys are approving the right words, and that at the end of the day, when those deals end, it's all in. Call of Duty is here on Game Pass. You know, Sony wants it. They got to have Game Pass. I agree with you guys. I think that's the highest probability. I'm just saying that there is more nuance to this one than there was with the ZeniMax deal with a franchise like the Elder Scrolls.
So you're just playing devil's advocate?
A little bit, but I think that I think you can see it. I think if you take, again, a step back, you could see how this plays. And again, with the regulatory commission, this is going to be the most scrutinized deal in the gaming industry. There are probably going to be concessions. And if one of those concessions is Call of Duty, don't think for a minute that Xbox and Microsoft aren't going to give in to get the deal done. They're going to do it, right? They're going to say,
I cannot see legally that Call of Duty could be a concession. Just because it's the biggest franchise in gaming now, it doesn't mean it will be in the future. There's just no legal reason why Call of Duty is different to any other game on the market.
And if they're offering them it through Game Pass, they're not technically saying that they're taking it away from their platform. They're giving them They're giving them an option to still have it on their console. It's just down to Sony to accept it.
Because this DOJ, under this new administration, is currently reviewing all deals that they've approved even in the past when it comes to tech companies. And they're going to set a precedent with this one moving forward. So I'm saying that
there's tech companies, but I think they're more focusing on the social media aspect. I don't think gaming is as such in their crosshairs as much as big social media companies. I do agree with you that this Department of Justice is different and the whole atmosphere around it is different, but I don't think an acquisition that, basically relates to gaming. Yes, the metaverse is involved, which will mean that they will keep a closer eye on it, but that won't come until a little bit later into the future. So yes, I think that they will have a more of a watchful eye, but I don't think that there'll be anything that they'll negate it, and I don't think that they'll put, especially a game. They're not going to stipulate a game being being the problem. That's not what the DOJ is really focusing at the moment at the time. It's, so I get where you're coming from, Pong. I do, but
I'm just saying, don't be surprised.
Well, here's the thing. there's a $3 billion breakup clause, right? So we all know. I mean, we all know it's going to. But I think, and I definitely agree with Jedi on that, because a lot of people are not taking into account there is a geopolitical factor to this, right? Whether some people like it or not, the sort of the geopolitical relationship between the United States and China is that of a Cold War. It resembles a Cold War, a tit for tat, Nixonian chessboard. And the DOJ...
Are they going to allow Tencent to buy it?
Exactly, because if Microsoft doesn't buy it, you open it up to predatory foreign, particularly Tencent and entities
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
it's the entire DOJ. When the DOJ says they're going to look at it, of course they're going to look at it.
I mean, Wandering Dutch in the comments just nailed it on the head, in my opinion.
What if,
Yeah,
if you,
the DOJ doesn't
He
really
doesn't give two
I agree.
shits about God, trust me. Yep.
All those
Oh,
people
yeah.
at DOJ have kids and family members who play on PlayStation.
and,
Now, do not take out the human element when it comes to it. Do
No,
not take
I
out the human
understand.
Yeah,
element.
but
I'm not
you
think-
you
but
say
the-
that, but the same is about the business element. What's more important is the business element.
Correct. And again, I'm not saying the deal. I think the deal clears, right? I'm not saying that they're
Yeah,
going
they have
to
a
nix
$3
the
billion.
deal. I'm
Yeah,
just
it's done.
saying
There
that
might be
at the end of the
stipulations.
day, there might be stipulations. There might be concessions that we all think are crazy, but at the end of the day, they set a precedent moving forward. And I just think that this could be different from anything we've seen in the past. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, don't be surprised. I'm all on
Oh
your
yeah,
side.
I
for
get
the
what you're
most
saying.
part.
Yeah.
There's
You know
no,
what I'm saying?
there's no doubt
surprised,
it's
though.
different from what we've seen in the
It's
past.
possible.
But I think,
But the same is like
he made a great point. Wondering Dutch is that because Activision's on the back foot with such a bad culture, with
human
such
element isn't legal element. Dutch says.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's-
brother.
Do you want to create a precedent of that nature where you stipulate one specific thing, one specific game must go multi-platform? I just can't see that precedent being made
I
in
can't
legal terms. It's
How many
just
games
it's just
again?
too
How many games have
far-fetched
cost
to me.
another company $20 billion in one day? How many games?
But
have done that?
but that's the nature.
Yeah,
of the
but that's just the
that's
market
nature of the
reacting.
market,
no,
exactly.
but
Yeah,
Pong's
that's
actually
the market reacting.
Pong's right here.
First of all, let me address Wandering Dutch, because brother, Wandering Dutch, I love you, man. Listen, human element isn't legal element. If you haven't been paying attention to what's been happening over the past, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, the human element is all over politics and legal, right? So
But not
again,
finance.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't
not-
be.
Yeah, but it's
Unfortunately,
gonna come
it's
down
not-
to
yeah,
if my kid can't
unfortunately-
play.
Hold on.
Then
Let's-
this still ain't
let's
gonna
let
go
Pong-
through.
Let's let Pong finish.
No, that's okay. Again, I got my main points out. Like I said, I always take a bigger view and I look at everything from all possible sides, whether it's realistic, whether it's crazy talk or not. I'm just saying that I think that there's a possibility one way or another Call of Duty does stay multi-platform. I think that going forward, mainline Call of Duty, because I do believe that they're no longer going to be a yearly release once Microsoft gets a hold of it. I do believe
One
they're
can
going to go
hope.
back. Exactly. We can all hope because it needs that break. So if they only get one, two
That
studios,
gives it a
max
5-year
working on it.
cycle, right? Because you've got two
Correct.
studios on it, right?
Well, no, they have. It's 3 studios. They have Treyarch,
Yeah.
Sledgehammer, and what's the other one? No, there's one
But I-
more.
Infinity Ward.
Infinity Ward.
Infinity
That's
Ward.
it.
Yeah,
we'll
and I
look
think
at-
Infinity Ward and Treyarch stay on it, and I think that that's what
I
they're going
agree.
with. And
Yeah,
I
I agree.
think that so then it's no longer Warzone is going to be your moneymaker continuously. The main line will no longer be that yearly revenue that it was for Activision, which has actually part of the cause of where they are right now. When Bobby
I
Kotick
agree.
talks about the business side of things and how they could not see a way forward into the future, they created an absolute mess by relying on Call of Duty yearly and by focusing all their talent on Call of Duty. And that's
I don't think
part of
so.
the
They
reason.
made a lot of money.
No, that's
They-
no,
they-
that- that's
but not
absolutely
enough.
right. You're absolutely
Not
bang
enough.
on the money there, Pong. And because what you did was you took,
Yeah, I
you
agree
talent, took talent away, you took IPs away, and then you took creativity away. And this is an industry that relies on art and creativity, and you took that away. And then you had to rely on that one IP to carry you through. And let's
But
be
it
honest,
did.
the
What you
quality's
invested
been
Hey,
dropping.
I get what Shitz is saying as well, but don't forget that COD has been dropping in the amount of sales recently, and I think it will
Right.
continue
Right.
along that cycle unless something is changed. And I think a biannual release cycle can really help it. And if you just have those two studios, you give them 4 years to develop the game instead of the 3 they're currently at. It opens up so many avenues. It gives you that the Warzone to be your continuously Call of Duty moneymaker. It gives those studios, Infinity Ward and Treyarch, an extra year to develop the game, which is also going to help. And it also opens up the other studios to be more creative and not just be on that yearly Call of Duty
Or
cycle.
whatever time, and Microsoft is great at this, they get given whatever time they fucking need. Because
Right, 'cause they have the money.
that's what they should be getting. They should be getting the time they need to create the game that they want to make it quality for us, so that when we play it, there's none of this buggy bullshit that goes on. But I want to move back to something else that Pong and Shits and you guys were talking about. Is I think the main thing that the DOJ will look at will be the culture in the company, and I think they'll look at Microsoft as a plus. And I think that's a very understated. Maybe, and you're talking about nuance, very understated and missed.
Dutch said that in the comments as well. He
I
says
think
this-
Pyro made a really good point in the comments where he says that I don't think the problem's going to be the American DOJ. I think it's going to they will be. I think they take a very different look. They take an overall look at things, and they were the ones that were the sticking point for the Bethesda deal. They took a lot longer than the American system did to actually accept and acknowledge the deal. So I think that they will be more the problem.
General C, you were going to say?
I was just saying about Dutch's comments in the thing. He says in terms of IP, a game in an actual Supreme Court, which is where this would ultimately fall, they don't care about a singular IP. The human factor comes into play for sexual harassment.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right there. I think that's going to be the thing that carries this deal over the line.
They do have one federal, right? So one is in California, but I do think pending with Activision with Blizzard,
right. Yeah,
there is one federal. I don't. That overall should not affect the merger. It won't affect the acquisition. If anything, once that gets settled and Kodak gets shit canned, in the end, I think Microsoft will look even better.
I can tell you what will happen with that appeal right now. As soon as Microsoft close this deal, if that appeal is still going, they'll pull those guys into a room. They'll break out the checkbook, and it will be an offer they can't refuse, and that'll be gone.
Well,
he'll get a golden parachute leave. Yeah,
this is a $69 billion deal with Kodak.
That would have all been worked out when he first went to them. Yes, I don't think he wanted to actually sell, but I think he was forced to due to everything that was going on. I think it's the best thing for both companies, and I think they've already agreed a figure that he'll be leaving for, and I think that he'll be walking away with hundreds of millions of dollars.
But I'm not talking about Kodak. I'm talking about at the moment in the Supreme Court. There was a settlement made over the issues that they had at Activision, and that was settled for $18 million, which is a pittance. That's still going. So if that is still going when this deal closes,
at the Supreme Court. That was just in California. Yeah.
Well, no, there is one that's being federal. He's right.
Yeah, there is.
But
one.
It's not going. Yeah, but it's not the Supreme Court. It's just the circuit. It's not going. The problem
you've got too many courts over there, man. You just need the one like we've got. That's not even true. We've got more than one as well.
Let the prison colony lecture me on the court system. That's it's fucking brilliant.
All I'm going to say...
General C's laughing. He's like, we kicked you up for a reason.
Yeah, their Supreme Court's a little bit different. They do generally work on constitutional issues only, just like our High Court will only work on federal issues. Yeah, it'd be more like this going to our Supreme Court.
But look, if General was going to say anything about Australia, like you guys banished us to a tropical paradise, and you're stuck in this freezing cold. I don't know what you.
Yeah, I am. I'm in my freezing cold studio at the moment because I ain't got heating and my fingers are frozen.
Well, I think Jedi was right. Again, it will be the European Union because we can look at the European Union now, and it was only in mid-December, Hyundai Heavy Industries was looking to merge with DSME, which is a shipping company, and the European Union ruled that they wouldn't accept it because it would give them a 60% monopoly on LNG, which is liquid natural gas. So we've seen the European Union, as recent as like a little over a month ago, reject a major merger. So I definitely agree with Jedi on that. I think the Activision and Activision Blizzard and Microsoft merger will not be getting anywhere near the number of 60% dominant. I think everybody knows that. So I think you're right. There's going to be more hurdles there with Europe, but I think if 60% was kind of the last metric for refusal, I can't imagine this is going to be anywhere near 60%. So it'll be more of a challenge, but it in the end, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that the Europeans.
There is no monopoly in the gaming market. It is still, there's still Ubisoft, EA, there's still Tencent, Sony, Valve. It's still Amazon, that's right. When you include the mobile market, that opens up even more. So there is no such thing as a monopoly.
2,200 companies in the gaming industry, over
Exactly.
200,000 people working in the gaming industry. It's not even close.
Exactly. And I think the European Union will more worry about, will the jobs in Europe, well, just like they were worried about with the Bethesda deal, will the jobs in Europe be safe? And that was what they were worried about with Bethesda, and Microsoft basically have proven that if anything, no one gets fired, more people get hired. So I don't see there being a
bring everything back to the States.
The only ones that are going to get fired are the ones doing the sexual harassment. They're the only ones that are going to go.
Umbra?
I was going to say, to add what Pong and Jedi pointed out, this right here, this acquisition is considered a vertical acquisition, not a horizontal. So horizontal would be them buying Sony. That would be horizontal. That would be antitrust. This being vertical is rarely ever looked at by the DOJ. Very rarely ever looked at. So I think it's clear for that reason alone. It's not a monopoly. Like you guys pointed out, it's 2,000 plus whatever other publishers out there. They're good.
Can you explain a vertical?
So what vertical means? So if they were to buy, for it to be, it's either horizontal or lateral. Both mean the same thing. For it to be a lateral or a horizontal acquisition, Umbra's 100% right. In terms of legalese, right? American legalese, which we're probably both a little bit better versed in. That would be if they bought Sony, or if they bought Nintendo, if they absorbed something that was directly in competition with them, that had a relatively similar market share. That would be like if Apple bought Google, or Google bought Apple.
Is there something in between? Is there like a diagonal? Or are we just
that's a good question. You know what? You got to take that to the
Supreme Court. The gray area, if you will.
Yeah. But a vertical acquisition is when you acquire, I don't want to say something tertiary, but something that just kind of builds you up, and that's why they call it a vertical acquisition. So it's not illegal in any way, shape, or form. Only the most inane ass clowns of the Twitterverse are throwing out words like antitrust and monopoly, because they have no concept of what that actually entails. Like antitrust laws and monopoly go back to the early 20th century, and they were sort of erected under Teddy Roosevelt's administration. It's completely, they've been refined over time, but in principle they're the same.
I couldn't imagine Teddy Roosevelt erecting anything. But yep. Go.
Yeah,
he
just runs over.
Oh my god!
It's like
between shits and risket, there's been way too many penis and testicle jokes on this channel.
What? Who are you talking about penis? No.
This will be the last show.
You guys checked out that article by Xbox Era. So there's an article that talks about this, and that's where I got the information from. So as it says, as the fourth line in Microsoft's press release emphasizes, they are third place standing within gaming. So they're pointing out that they're third place, which also pushes them away from being monopolized, right? It's clear that the company is aware that these questions of antitrust will be high on everyone's list. So they've already explored back channels to ensure that it will pass legal hurdles. That's the biggest thing.
No,
if there's any company in the world to take on the DOJ, it's Microsoft, right?
Yeah,
they wouldn't be offering $3 billion assurance if they weren't sure the deal was going through.
That's true too.
Microsoft is worth more than Italy, just so everybody knows. It's worth more than the fourth, wealthiest nation in Europe. So It is. The GDP of Italy is under 2.4. It's like $2.2 trillion. It's less than Microsoft's market cap. And sorry, Italians. Yeah, I apologize to all 7 million of you. You're not worthless.
What are you saying?
Much. Yeah, right. You're just not worth as much as my Xbox. But take it with a grain of salt. But
lasagna and bolognese is like, priceless.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it's great. I've had it in Philadelphia twice. It's got to be authentic. The point being is that the idea that this merger would not go through because of legal reasons, in order to take anything to court, you have to, at least in America, I'm sure in Australia, the whole country, you're born into a prison, so there's no need for courts. But at least here, you have to have standing, and there's no real legal standing because you're not going to approach any metric that even remotely resembles monopoly. You could get some outside complaints from the European Union, but then again, we just saw a month ago Hyundai Heavy Industries and DMS, which is Daewoo's shipping. It's the apparatus for their shipping. That got rejected by the European Union. And I think it was Ursula von der Leyen gave some rousing speech, but I was bad and I slept through most of it. But you wouldn't get any. So we know what the standard for refusal is, and this doesn't remotely approach it. So, I mean, there's going to be bickering, and of course, you're going to have certain things tied up in litigation. But in the end, I think when Phil Spencer said that like year to 18 months is sort of the expected time frame, I think that was pretty accurate.
Well, look, I think more telling is the fact that Activision's not only has Microsoft put up that $3 billion, Activision has put up that $3 billion also, because this deal cuts both ways. So if Activision makes some sort of folly mistake, gets a better offer, they're up for $3 billion if they break this deal.
Yeah,
so
and they're not.
That's a pretty telling thing when you look at the deal as a whole and the market cap of Activision, that they're happy to put that money up because that's how sure they are that this deal is going to go through. I mean, that's telling in itself.
Yeah, the only real way for them to try to combat this, by the way, is to go to attack the subscription base. That's the only real way they have to try to fight it.
But
I think even Wandering Dutch pointed that out in the comments. That's really the only way, because Microsoft is poised, obviously, to dominate there. But then you got, I know what you're about to say, too, Shiz. You're about to point out Netflix and all these other people who are going to be going into gaming with it. You're right.
The PlayStation, so that more people are subscribed to PSN
That's right.
and Game Pass. So
True.
and Netflix has faced antitrust legislation. It has, and it's cleared it in spades. And it did it
That's
before, Amazon Prime, and I think it was 2003, 2004. So we've seen the
precedent has been set in the creative market. You're absolutely right.
That's the big legal word, is precedent. There is legal precedent for that, and that's exactly what I was getting to. Umbra hit it on the head. And then you got the exact legal defense for it, is that there's already precedent for it. Yep. So it's done. I think anybody that does not believe this merger is going through is functionally retarded, because it is.
Oh, look, that's most people on Twitter.
Right, no, it is. And don't get me wrong. I've literally pissed in a dryer, so I've fallen in that demographic myself.
Risky learned a baby dryer. Just want to point that out.
That's true. Yeah, I bet you would. Can I ask you a quick question, Risky? While you were playing that baby murder game, did you have your 3-month-old on your lap?
No, I did not. No.
Oh, father of the fucking
Probably
year right
not
here.
something they should watch. Look, we have most definitely covered the gamut, I think, on the Activision, and I'm sure that we'll recover it again. But I want to move to a segment that I wanted to add to the show, which I want to call "Put This on Your Radar." So basically what I'm thinking is these are games that really don't get the attention that they deserve, and there's plenty of them out there. But I wanted to start with one of the biggest ones that I've been watching probably for about nearly a year. This game's been creeping into the market, and it looks like amazing. If it is what they say it is, and it does what they say it does, the day before is shaping up to be one of the best games. I think.
Is it the zombie Division looking one that looks awesome?
It is.
Exactly
It looks like The Last of Us and the Division combined. Yep.
Yeah,
looks amazing.
I can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to that.
It is an online MMO, fully online MMO. They did have a really weird trailer with some funky jazz music in the background of everyone getting together in a hub area.
Oh yeah, yes.
But I mean, the combat looks like absolutely crazy. I mean, graphically, if you guys have got it up on your screen at the moment,
Yeah, it's on screen now.
yeah,
To me, it
graphically,
really
dude.
just looks like a mod for Division.
yeah, but the physics.
It looks a bit more Last of Us to me, and I like how that big backpack that costs you weight. You really have to, watch how much weight you're carrying. There's going to be that PvP aspect of it as well, and it's coming to console. And these games rarely do. They're usually stuck on PC, which I think is another plus for it.
I agree.
Absolutely. Initially, it was only slated for PC, and then only, I think within the last 6 months, they were bringing it to the only next-gen consoles. So PlayStation won't have it.
Apparently, though, that one's on everyone's radar.
Looks pretty dope. I like the way. Yeah.
But you don't hear
I can
anything
definitely
about
see the Last of Us vibes. I can see it, but it also definitely gives me the Division. That's immediately
Yeah,
what I
I
see.
thought it was
Yeah.
like the Zombie Division. I thought it looked beautiful. I saw that about. I started tracking that about a month ago. I want to say.
Yeah. But this thing, like, it looks.
Yeah.
It looks at. I mean, this is without the RTX on. The first thing that I had up was
Yeah.
just
In
RTX.
my,
Man,
this
this
has
is
been in my
just.
Steam wish list for quite some time.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I want to ask the chat as well. What this is going to be a new segment. Put it on your radar. So just give us some advice, either on Twitter, on the chat now, on what you want to see. So this will be a regular segment, and input from the community would be greatly valued.
Yeah. Do you want to see indies? Do you want to see these little sneaky? This has been hiding. I haven't heard anyone talking about this, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. And it's by a mobile developer. They stepped out of their comfort zone and they've started developing. This is their first game out of the gate off mobile. So, I mean, it looks absolutely fire. But we got a little bit stung by the Division, so hopefully we don't get. Say
I
again.
want to point out these guys were mobile first, so it's amazing to see what happens when you allow these developers or the developers themselves step out of the shadow of what they were doing formerly. So imagine what these developers we now have with Activision, if they, High Moon
King.
and Raven. Imagine what they can give us now when they get out of the Call of Duty shadow.
I mean, but the physics in this game are just out of control. If you watch the vehicles driving, like the physics and everything around the entire game, the way it works as an MMO is something that hasn't really been done well before. So I'm quite interested to see how they handle it. Weight, food, all these things you need to eat. You have to. It's basically a survival game mixed with an MMO game mixed with a zombie game. It's pretty ambitious.
Yeah, it looks like there's a fair degree of resource management to it as well.
It was very, very huge of an open world as well.
Where is it? Is it? No, my question is just looking at it. I assume it's New York.
I think it's New York. Yeah, it definitely looks like that.
Okay. Yeah,
Holy-
everything's New
It's
York.
physics. Mine is a little bit delayed, but the car getting stuck in the mud, that's well cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Yep.
Yeah, look, I encourage you guys to go check it out on YouTube, man. Some of they've got heaps and heaps of footage, some 15-minute footage. And it just looks out of control. I'm super excited for it. I want it like now.
Is this segment going to be strictly for games that are coming out in the future, or can it be to do with games that have already come out?
Oh, no, games.
On your radar, so I would stick it to games
Future.
coming out into the future,
Yeah.
but we can mix it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say check a
I
game out
can't-
called Hunt Showdown. It's one of my favorite
Oh,
shows.
here we go. Yeah.
I played a little bit of the trial of Hunt when it first came out. I think it was on a trial basis. Look, I mean, it's okay.
Try it now. It's such a bad game than when it was launched.
I have
Is it-
seen
yeah.
it. I have seen it on Twitch. I don't know who was playing it.
Might have been me.
Someone called General C.
Oh, could have been.
Yeah, that's a game I stream quite frequently when I do stream, but at the moment my PC is like knackered. I load up a game of Hunt Showdown and try and stream it, and my PC struggles.
Yeah, you basically play as like some Van Helsing, and you got to go kill stuff in like a map or something.
Yeah, it's basically like a PvPvE game, so like, while you're
Yeah.
looking for the boss bounty, everyone else is also looking for it, and you can get into engagements with those people. It's a crazy good game.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite shooters of all time, and it's the game that really takes up the most of my game time.
It is a terrible game. You're right. So look, we're gonna wrap you take that back. We're gonna wrap it up. This has been an absolutely fantastic show. We've had some fantastic guests and we've had a fantastic chat. So I'd like to thank everyone that came along in the chat. You guys really do power the show. You make it what it is. And I'm going to say to you guys, can find me on Xbox under Riskit4TB. You can find me on PlayStation under Riskit4TB. You can find me on Twitter. And as soon as I get home, which will hopefully be in the next 2 weeks, you can also find me on Twitch streaming Definitely Not Hunt Showdown. Again, to our guests, you guys have been absolutely fantastic and amazing. I'm going to go to Shits and Giggles with you first, mate. Tell us where we can find you, what you're playing, what you're up to, and what's next for you.
Yeah, usually at the local police station. No, I'm Shits and Giggles. You can find me on YouTube at Shits and Giggles. Yeah, I just want to thank you for having me and enduring the litany of my cock jokes. So very few people are willing. Yeah, right. One more, gotcha.
They're always entertaining. They're always entertaining.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you to the entirety of the panel. Always great to meet you, Jen, you as well, Pong. And also want to thank everybody in the comments section. And wish you guys all the best. Have a good one.
General C, we'll move to you and let us know what you're up to, what you're streaming on Twitch. Well, we already know that.
Usually Hunt.
And where we can find you, what you're up to, what your plans are next.
You can find me on YouTube, the General C. You can find me on Twitter, the _General C. That's also my Twitch name with the underscores in it. I'm on a Sunday show with Wandering Dutch. It's the midweek mix-up weekend edition. So you can catch us there on Sundays.
Fantastic. Yeah, I saw that the other day. It was a great show.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast.
Oh, we love having you, man. You should definitely go and see that show, Midweek Mix-Up. Great. Production quality was amazing. Really impressed. It was a great show. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. Pong, thank you for coming along, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come to the show. Grace us with your presence. Tell us what you're up to, where we can find you, and what's next for you.
Oh, most of your chat have not had the pleasure of one of the longest outros in podcast history. So buckle up, get ready. First of all, Riskit, thank you for the invite. Honor and a pleasure to be here. You are an awesome host. So thank you so much. Obviously a pleasure to meet your panel, Jedi, and obviously Umbra. I've seen you so much in chat, man. We've talked back and forth. Great to be on a show with you finally as well. Obviously, Shits and General. It's great. I just enjoy coming on new podcasts and hearing different perspectives. And this is what's fantastic about this community, is being able to come together and discuss something that we have such a passion for. And I love that. So thank you all for your input tonight. Really, really great discussions in chat. You all are amazing. You got a great community over here. Just keep building on that. This is just awesome place to be. So thank you again. Look, Pong Soul, Xbox, Twitter. You can find me right now. I'll be hopping over to Xbox Ultimate with my extended family over there on Fun Speculations channel. And we're going to continue this conversation over there. I am sure much of the Activision Blizzard obviously is dominating right now. Saturday mornings, you can catch me on Living Split Screen. That's myself and my brother from another, Steel Rain. We do a 2-man show, 3+ hours. We get you up in the mornings. American time, it's 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central time, 3 p.m. UK time. Living Split Screen, all one word. As my brother Steele likes to say, we are going to bring it live, raw, and uncut. You can expect tomorrow to be that's for sure, because we got some rants that go on. So that is tomorrow morning. Tomorrow night, the Shop Podcast, PTK Blam's channel. Fuzzy Belvedere, Centurion, myself. This week we have Guest K Asante 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central Time. Shop Podcast. Check us out Saturday nights. Tuesdays, Xbox Factor Podcast. Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. Boomstick, great member of the community, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time, Archimedes, Fun Speculation, 3-bit if he ever becomes available. Now we have Mr. Joanna Dark, who stopped in the chat as well, and myself, all things Xbox, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. Thursday nights, PM in the PM, back on Fun Speculations channel, Pong and Mav in the PM, another 2-man show where we deep dive 1, 2, maybe 3 topics at most. Great time over there, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Him and I just have awesome conversations, chat included. Drop by over there. Otherwise, this was fantastic. And as I've been doing for about the past 2 weeks, I just want to give a shout out to this entire community. Anybody who took the time to think about, send energy, pray for Spooky Sprocket and the terrible things that he's going through. He is out of his coma, for people who don't know. His family has been updating the community, but thank you all for the love and care that you've shown that man. He's a great member in this community, and he's got a long road ahead of him recovery-wise, but great to know that he's out of his coma. So thank you all for all of that as well. But other than that,
Pong, if they want, because there was so much there, if they can find you on Twitter and actually find most of this stuff, chat, follow Pong on Twitter. All that information will be there. I know there was a lot there and a lot to follow, but all these shows are absolutely amazing. You know, he welcomes everyone into his community. I just met him today, but I've seen him online numerous times. Definitely give him a follow.
Thank you so much, sir. It is the golden age of gaming, people. Enjoy this time. There's been no better time in gaming history than right now. We get to live it. It is fantastic.
There has never been a better time. Never.
Nope, exactly. So don't let anybody steal your energy. Don't let anybody just bring you down on your hype levels. Play what you love what you play, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Thank you.
Oh, I got a question for you. Do you sleep?
Yes, I do. 7 hours consistently.
Here's the thing, Pong. You beat me. You got the last one when you said live, raw, and uncut. I was like, that motherfucker.
That's my brother Steel saying, man.
Son of a bitch.
Hardest working man in podcasting by far. Look at that. Pong sleepless.
He is the hardest working in podcasting for sure. I did not know what I was in for when I said, "What are you up to?" I've got to keep moving on. Got to keep moving on. And got to say thank you very much to Jedi Knight Peter coming on the show every week consistently, disagreeing with everything I say. It's absolutely amazing to have you here every week. Thank you. Where are you? What are you up to? What's next? What's going on? Where can we find you?
You can find me at JediKnightPete at Twitter, and also my Xbox gamer tag. I'm usually playing Halo, so if anyone wants to jump into a game, just jump in. I'm pretty much always up for a game. Thank you, Risket, for having me again. Xbox Infinite is, your baby, and you've graciously welcomed me on. Umbra, I love spending Saturday afternoons with you, mate. And to the guests, Pong, Shits and Giggles, and the General C, thank you so much for joining us. What am I doing? I've just downloaded Hitman. It's on Game Pass, everybody, so check that out. If you haven't played Death's Door, it was my game of the year. It is also on Game Pass. Game Pass just keeps going from strength to strength.
Absolutely. Umbra, mate, you're back on Twitter. I've been in the spaces. It's been fantastic. Tell us where we can find you, what you're up to, what's next.
I'm feeling rejuvenated right now, Risk. And somebody gave me the name Monarch, so I'm going to be Monarch Umbra for a minute, for maybe a week on Twitter. I don't know.
No, but he's the king. Oh my God.
This Xbox acquisition got me feeling real swaggy right now. I just want to throw that out there. But, I just want to thank you all again. Obviously, Risk and Jedi, for you guys for welcoming me in. And I want to thank our guest, Pong, the man of 1,000 podcasts, Pong the Sleepless Soul. And Shiz, thank you for coming through again, brother. And Jen, appreciate meeting you. And, we followed each other back just now on Twitter. You guys,
everyone now.
Yep, appreciate it. And you guys can find me under Umbra Infinite on Twitter. You can find me on Superhavoc on the Xbox, which I'm about to play some Rainbow Six if I can find a party really quick. Like Pong said, be happy. I mean, we have a lot to be happy for. It's a golden age right here again. You have a lot to celebrate. Don't let anybody steal your joy. And Xbox fanboys who are upset about what you read and what you thought you read, relax. You're not losing here.
There's no point being upset yet. The
Exactly.
deal is
That's
not
right.
finally done.
Exactly. And I'm going to leave you with
Before you say that, Riz, before you say that one time,
Okay, yeah.
I'm five followers away from being 1,000 on Twitter. So if you all are not following me, please do.
Oh, shameless bastard.
And as soon as he hits 1,000, I'm unfollowing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna unfollow you and then follow you and then unfollow 999 1009. I'm gonna fuck your day up.
So, right, listen, I got one more thing to say. I'm going to leave you with a thought after this. I was happy to hear Spooky had woken up, fellow Aussie, even though he's a Queenslander. It was amazing to hear that he had. Even though it was amazing to hear that he had come out of a coma. I honestly had been optimistic, but I wasn't 110% that it was going to happen, and it was a happy day for me to hear that he had come back out of his coma. He might have a long way to go, but at least he's awake and he's moving towards being well again. That said, to the acquisition, Xbox gamers, if you're out there listening, it doesn't matter if Sony has Call of Duty on their platform. Who gives a shit? You're going to get it for free. Thank you for coming and watching the show. It's been amazing. And we'll see you all in a couple of weeks when I finally get home to Aussie.
Thanks again for having me, Risket. And
Safe travels, Risket.
Umbra.
General C, tell us. Sorry, mate. I've had a few gins. Tell us where we can find you, what you're up to.
You can find me on Twitter, the General C, and on YouTube, the General C.
And follow his Twitch channel, because as much as I took the piss, it is a great game. Fantastic game.
I'm going to drag you into Hunt Showdown one night.
Oh, we're doing it. We are 110% doing it. We're on. All right, guys. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching the show.